Welcome back, gang. It's good to be here, man. It's good to be able to talk some New York Giants football. I know we had what I would consider a short off season, but it was definitely a long amount of time, but it flew by extremely fast. I've been super busy on my end with the studio stuff, with the film stuff, with all of that. But New York Giants football is back. We played the Minnesota Vikings this past week. I'm looking forward to these other preseason games. It's a profound feeling to be back up here on YouTube talking New York Giants football. And I'm looking forward to this year and just looking forward to covering the New York Giants this year. It's going to be I can't say it's going to be a great year, but I will say this. It's going to be a different year. You saw the title on the stream. Are we the same old New York Giants? I think there were some moments in this preseason game that kind of showed that we look like the same kind of team. But we're underneath a new coaching staff, got new offensive coordinators, got my dog at defensive coordinator with Denard Wilson. So I do expect change. I just don't know how drastic that change is going to be this season. But hey, I'm here for the journey. Looking forward to it. I'm kind of getting back into like my fan kind of mode a little bit. And just loving the game more, not treating it so much like a job, really, right? Like where you got to be on every piece of news. I've been watching a lot of content creators lately as well, and it's been great, man. It's just getting back to my fandom, and I think that hopefully doing that, in return, maybe the football gods will bless me with a couple of New York Giants victories, because it's been, 7 seasons now that we've been here on YouTube, and the New York Giants have relatively been a terrible team, basically the whole time that we've been on here. But shout out to all my day ones. I do see y'all in the chat, man. We're going to talk about basically everything today. I'm not going to harp on too many nuances of player-to-player details. I'm going to talk about a couple of standout players. Obviously going to get to the Jackson Dart stuff. Going to talk about Arvell Reese just looking like what I want him to look like, which is a ferocious, fearless type of football player. And we lack those kind of dudes on this team. We're going to be talking about Francis Maui-Noah. We're going to talk about the offensive line. Y'all know we're going to talk about the running game. That's what we do over here on Authentic in the Beard. Shout out to everybody that's new here that's going to be checking this out on the replay. Y'all going to have to bear with us because there is a lot of catching up to do. I definitely got to catch up with the family. Got to catch up with the chat. I see y'all already. So let's go ahead and just start the show off proper. Tap in with my chat one time real quick. I know the people on the replay might not really rock with this, but definitely got to say what's up to a couple of members in the gang one time, and then we'll get off into talking about this matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, which was, from a scoreboard perspective, a pretty boring game. But big shout out to my day one time in the building, man. I definitely missed you, my dog. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets is in the building one time. He said AATB, what up? And he also said, yes, it might be the same old New York Giants. And I'm definitely feeling those kind of vibes. I can't lie. I'm feeling optimistic, more optimistic than I typically am. Y'all know the saying over here on Authentic in the Beard. We definitely not going to be too optimistic. We're not going to be too pessimistic, but we're going to sit right in the middle, keep it funky, and be as realistic as we can possibly be. Big shout out to my dog, man, representing for my folks here in the area in the DMV as well. My dog Jester is in the building. What's going on, fam? Jameson is in the building. What's going on, my dog? Your Cowboys just signed Vaughn Miller. That's a good look for y'all. I see Always Betrayed is in the building saying what's up to the New York Giants fans. My dog Deedon Shelton is in the building. My day one rocking out with us again. Jarrell is in the building. What's going on, fam? Gregory here representing for them Dallas Cowboys one time. I see Zach is in the building. He says the run defense still concerns me, and I hope you're doing well. Everything is great, bro, on my end. Blessed, highly favored. My gratitude is at an all-time high. The work that is falling into my lap, and I almost don't even want to call it work, but just the opportunities that are falling into my lap have been just been amazing. And I can't thank God enough. Just like I said, man, my gratitude is at an all-time high. And the run defense definitely concerns me as well. We're going to get to talking about that when we get off into some of these Giant overreactions as well. I see JJ Stangle is in the building one time. He said, glad to see you back. Absolutely, man. It's good to be back up here one time, to be honest, man. 59 Ways to Groove is in the building. What's going on, my dog? I see you. Man, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to catch up on. The boy is in the building. I see No Cap in my racks is in the building. Simeon is in the building. 59 Ways to Groove already with the first super chat of the day, man. Big shout out to my dog coming in with that 199 super chat. He says, oh yeah, we back. We absolutely are. And we're back with reason. That's what's really great about this. Like the last stream that we did was literally right after the draft. We did our post-draft stream, which was about I think like a 3, maybe 4 hour stream. And I would expect today's stream to be a bit similar, to be honest, because like I said, we got a lot of catching up to do. And 59 Ways to Groove also coming in with another one here, 499 super chat here. He says, one more for the gang, man. Absolutely. You know what it is, man. Biceps in the chat early and often. Simeon Togo said even Evan Neal looked like a professional football player. I honestly didn't get a chance to really look at Evan Neal. I've looked at the All-22, and I'm gonna tell y'all what I loved. Football on a Saturday made Sunday amazing for me. I really just kicked back, chilled, just got to sit in the studio and watch tape all day. So I just went over Jackson Dart, went over Odell Beckham, went over Arvell Reese, went over Deonte Banks and Colton Hood, and just focusing on individual players that I'm really concerned about that I think need to make that leap. And it was good to have football on Saturday. I'm not even gonna lie. I love my Sundays, but having Sunday to just relax and just watch tape all day, I was watching the Browns game 3 times. I caught myself watching that Browns game and I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely desperate for some football right now. But I'll circle back and take a look at, Evan Neal. I don't even remember him on the field. Honestly, second half of the game, I really kind of just clocked out a little bit. I was really more focused on the starters, some of the depth pieces that I think are going to play a more pivotal role. But once we got there to the late third, fourth quarter, I was watching, but I was kind of checked out, to be honest. Let me see what else we got in the building. We got Mario Montague in the building, says salute Authentic and Giants Nation. Yes, sir, man. That's kind of like a double entendre because big shout out to Bobby, man. He's been putting his foot in this New York Giants content. And like I said, I've been getting back to, just getting back on my fandom vibes, man. And just watching his coverage through training camp and watching what him and Jordan Renan have been doing, it's been amazing to just get back and just be able to chill and watch some great content creators put in some great work as well. Shout out JDJ in the building. He says, overreaction. Gotta lock him in this YouTube studio until the Cowboys game. Need a 3-week stream marathon to make up for lost time. And I basically think that's where we're going to be at. I'll let the cat out the bag here early in the show. I'm doing what's going to be called the NFL Rookie Wide Receiver Watch. Y'all know I'm very enamored with wide receivers. Did major coverage leading up to the draft. So the goal here is to follow all of these rookie wide receivers throughout their first year in the NFL and continue to keep that series going on. I might start it tomorrow. If it's not going to get started tomorrow, we're going to kick it off some point this week as well. So it's going to be, we locked in, bro. We locked in for sure. The boy says, been a minute, Brody. Absolutely has. I see Alvaro's in the building. He says, what's up, Authentic? Football is back. I didn't watch the game, but read some comments about Dart needing more protection. Is the O-line still an issue after all these years? I would think that the overreaction as far as the protection goes has to do a lot with the running back protection with Tyrone Tracy missing the block that got Jackson Dart killed. We're going to talk about that. I thought the offensive line played a pretty decent game overall, though. But I would, listen, I'm not the offensive line guy. Y'all know me. I like to focus on the skill positions more, right? We didn't have Andrew Thomas in this game. I saw a couple of lapses from Jermaine Illuminor as well in the run game. I do think we need to get a little bit more physical in the run game as far as blocking up front. Cam Scadaboo is kind of making up for some of that. But I think the offensive line is in a good place. Say Less is in the building talking about Najee Harris. We going to get there, bro. Me and my homie was talking about Najee 2 weeks ago, and it's just interesting that now he's coming in for a visit. I'm all for it. Sign me up. Absolutely. Let me see. No Cap in my rack says, I don't think it's the same old Giants. A lot of our major contributors didn't touch the field. That's true. And just don't forget that the same goes for the Minnesota Vikings as well. They did have a lot of starters on the field, but obviously guys like Jed is not on the field and a couple of key pivotal pieces on their defense as well. So, I think that goes for both sides of the coin as well. Big shout out Keith Wilson Jr. in the building one time, coming in with that $9.99 super chat. He says, salute OG, go G-Men, and go motherfucking Hurricanes. I know you double dip college-wise with Miami. You already know I'm supporting the New York Giants. When I was a fan of a college team, because I'm a big fan of college ball, but when I was a fan of a college team, I was a Nebraska Cornhuskers fan because I was a big Tommy Frazier fan. So, I'm not quite a Cornhuskers fan these days, but I'm a big Terp fan with the work that I'm doing right now with Coach Loxley and the Maryland Terps. But big shout out my dog, man. I appreciate you helping us support the channel and raising the bar. We definitely going to get to talking about a lot of these topics I see in the chat. Just hang tight. Definitely want to get into doing a brief recap of the game to start things off first, and then go off into some of these controversial topics that have, hit social media and hit the waves, basically. Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Arvell Reese. There's been a lot of Arvell Reese versus Sonny Styles talk. We're definitely going to get into all of that with some of the Giant overreactions. We'll split the 3 Giant overreactions throughout the entirety of the show. But let's start this one off by just kind of going through the game and recapping what happened on Saturday against the Minnesota Vikings.
From the jump. We have another opportunity. Put that in line.
Big shout out to Jameis Winston, man. He's just a great ball of energy for the New York Giants, man, and made some plays in this game, too. I thought that he was a pivotal piece in the reasoning why Jackson Dart ultimately ended up getting that touchdown. But this game was interesting. I thought it was some good. I'd say some more bad, to be honest. It did feel a lot like last season as far as just the tempo of the offense. And we've been hearing a lot of things about this offense looking a bit mediocre in training camp and really getting adjusted to the new playbook, with new offensive coordinators in here and whatnot with Matt Nagy. And a lot of people had criticism for Matt Nagy. I'm glad that John Harbaugh came out and said, hey, we basically put together a vanilla game plan for this preseason game. We're not trying to let the cat out the bag. We're just trying to see players play fast and play confident, which was amazing. But this entire game made me look back at some comments from Darnell Mooney just about a week ago. And I thought they were a little bit alarming at the time, but after seeing the way the New York Giants performed against the Minnesota Vikings, I think it all kind of makes sense. But last week, Darnell Mooney said, at first, Jackson Dart was pissed off because a lot of guys are trying to figure everything out. We're trying to learn the new playbook. Now the guys know the playbook. Everything is running a bit smoother. He's not having to help everyone out. He's calming, and now he can just play quarterback, right? But there are still wrinkles within this offense that we're trying to iron out some of these deficiencies. And I think that after seeing this game and seeing the way that the offense performed, those reports of the struggling offense in training camp, they seem pretty valid. And again, I'm glad that Harbaugh did emphasize that, listen, that there shouldn't be much criticism for the game plan. This is a preseason game. We're still trying to figure out who's going to make the 53-man roster. There are so many players that we saw in the second half of this game that you're likely never going to see again or possibly could be on the New York Giants practice squad. But it just didn't start off like consistent and just fluid with the way that the offense was moving. 4 drives in the first half. It went punt, touchdown, field goal, punt. One thing I wanted to see was the drives be a little bit more sustained, right? Just 4 drives in the first half seemed very minimal to me. We did have a touchdown. That was a 10-play drive, 63 yards. It took up 5 minutes and 49 seconds on the clock. And those are the types of drives that you want to see the New York Giants succeed at, right? But the issue for me with that drive was how far backed up we got on that drive after the Jackson Dart sack. Jameis Winston ends up coming into the game, and we end up picking up a 3rd and 23. We get 40 yards from Devin Singletary, who literally, I'm faster than Devin Singletary. I promise y'all. I went and I hooped for the first time in about 6 years just a couple of weeks back, and your boy still got it. I was out that bitch cooking. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. But Devin Singletary just high knee and looking extremely slow. Reminded me of my brother, the way my brother used to run back in the day. And my brother played defensive end, so that kind of gives you a gist of how he was running. But nonetheless, Jackson Dart did get back in the game and make the necessary play to put the ball in the end zone. We also got that field goal in the first half, and that was set up by some really good field position, courtesy of Braxton Berrios, who I thought in the punt return game looked pretty good and is going to make things a little bit difficult for some of these other wide receivers in that room that are trying to make this team, because Braxton Berrios gives that extra, ability of being able to contribute to the special team side of the ball. So I love that. But that drive started on the Minnesota Vikings 44-yard line. So you really didn't have far to go before you got into field goal range and then, ultimately put 10 points on the board. But I thought that the offense was pretty balanced, but committed to the run, which is what we should expect this year. Y'all know me and the Beard, my co-host, we love RTDB. That is our shit. We love running the damn football. We think that, most offenses are predicated on being established with the run, unless you have a unicorn at the quarterback position or some perennial playmakers on the outside, which I don't think the New York Giants have outside of Malik Neighbors. You have to have good balance. The Giants ran the ball more than they passed the ball in this game. 27 rushes to 21 passes. The third down percentage really bothered me at 5 of 13 on third down, but you got to take that with a grain of salt. It is the preseason, but 201 total yards in this game. That's not good enough for me. 3.9 yards per play and 5.2 yards per pass. That's not good enough for me either. And some people might say, hey, you're nitpicking a preseason game, but I'm just nitpicking the results and I'm nitpicking the reps. That's what's most important for me. We got to the red zone just one time on the entire day, and that's just not good enough. Our backups are going up against the Minnesota Vikings backups. I want to see the depth on the New York Giants be better than the depth, on the teams that we're going up against. And that just didn't feel like the case late in the game. I thought that our first team offense ran the ball pretty decent, but outside of that, it just wasn't good. But welcome to the preseason. And yeah, this is the Giant overreaction. Still, we're not going to come out here and just completely overreact from the first preseason game. The second half with Brandon Allen at quarterback was some of the worst football I've seen in the last couple of years. It was, shout out to my dog Cutter, it was cereal with no milk. That might even be a compliment to Brandon Allen, how bad his play was on the field. And I'm not going to harp on that too long, but it was so bad that the New York Giants went out there and they signed former Saints quarterback Jake Haener. And if you've seen Jake Haener play football, that already will describe to you how bad Brandon Allen was playing out there. The Giants' drives underneath the second half were just completely pitiful. 4 punts, 2 interceptions on 6 drives, 4 3-and-outs. A couple of those were ended early with interceptions on those drives. That's just unacceptable. And honestly, I know this is a third-string quarterback, but you cannot have an NFL quarterback go out there and play that kind of football. It made me kind of miss Tommy DeVito. I don't know if you guys remember when Tommy DeVito was with us in his last year. He went out there and made a great bid to be on our roster before the Patriots ended up ultimately picking him up. Threw a couple of touchdowns in his last preseason game. Those are the kind of things you want to see with a depth piece quarterback like that. And going from last year's quarterback room with Russell Wilson starting the year, Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston, to then having Jameis Winston being the third quarterback last year to now being the second team quarterback and going to a guy like Brandon Allen, to me, it was just a drastic drop off at the third string quarterback position. And I just want to see better from the New York Giants just overall in all departments, to be honest. Like, I don't care if you're a third string running back like a Turbo Miller, 4th-string running back practice squad guy. We want to see guys go out there and just put up good reps that we can go back and when we look at the tape, we feel proud about those reps. But let's talk a little RTDB one time because we all know that's how the New York Giants are going to operate this year. And I thought as a team, it wasn't good. 2.6 yards per carry as a team, just 2 rushing first downs all day. I want to say both of those came from Cam Scatterbo. I knew one of them came from Cam Scatterbo, but that's just not enough on the day. Tyrone Tracy, I had high hopes for Tyrone Tracy because I'm in my heart, I'm feeling like Tyrone Tracy is, in the background, working on his craft, getting better. You can't forget that this was a former wide receiver who converted to running back. So I'm thinking with more time, he's going to get better. I'm not going to overreact over just one game, but it wasn't a good day for Tyrone Tracy, even outside of the missed block. 2 rushes for 5 yards. It's just not going to get it done. Eric Gray, 8 rushes for 20 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. That's not good enough either. And I think the Eric Gray experiment should have been done with last year, but here we are. He's still here, I guess, because he's one of Joe Shane's guys. They're kind of, giving him a little bit favor on the roster, maybe kind of similar to Jalen Hyatt as well, who didn't play in this game. Jackson Dart had 0 rushes in this game, and Jameis Winston had 2 rushes in this game. And that kind of bothered me too. I know that we're trying to protect our quarterback here, but at the same time, I want to see what's going to be the identity of this football team, which is going to be running the ball. So I'd like to see Jackson Dart get a couple of carries. It does seem like there was a little bit of a extra emphasis during this training camp with Jackson Dart to not necessarily always look for that run after the first read. And I saw a little bit of mixed bag of that. There were times where Jackson Dart was looking like, I'll say, the one read quarterback that a lot of people like to put that label on him as at times in this game. But I saw some improvements from Jackson Dart, but I just want to see more rushes from Jackson Dart. Cam Scatterbo is absolutely running back 1. There's no doubt about it. 4 rushes for 19 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. And he looked healthy. I thought that was what was very important. You've seen a lot of reports going around on social media, and social media is a fucking shit show now. Like, there's all these parody accounts. There's all this misinformation. It's just a complete fiasco of information, and you have to be really on your P's and Q's to kind of dissect what is good information, what is bad information, what is false information. I'm sure a lot of y'all saw the reports that came out from a parody account yesterday about Joel Embiid like blowing out his meniscus or his knee or something like that. Complete false reports. So you really got to be on your toes when you're looking at some of the information that's coming out on social media. And it's not to get too sidetracked, but all of what's happening on social media has made me view what we do over here on this channel a little bit differently because, I don't like to be in a pool of saturation. And that's where, you got to raise your bar and figure out ways to separate yourself. And I think there are a lot of great New York Giants content creators that are doing that. Guys like Bobby with Giants Nation, guys like Big Dash, Diggy. I saw Diggy's All 22 review just recently on Arvell Reese, and it was just a delight to see it. Just great football knowledge, breaking it down, and I also had fun really watching that too as well. But not to overreact, Cam Scatterbo has to turn into our bell cow running back. That's my opinion. For the immediate future until we find a way to address this room. And I do think that the Giants have to address this room. I was just talking to my homie about this a couple of days ago, like, hey, Najee Harris is still on the market. I don't even have Najee's numbers, but off the top of my head, I low-key can remember this. I think this is accurate. Najee Harris has basically averaged 3.9 yards per carry for his entire career. You do that 3 times, that's a first down. I'm good with that. He's not some electric, exciting running back, but I think he's a pretty decent asset in the passing game. We saw that with Russell Wilson in his last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is coming off that injury, but I still think that Najee Harris could come out here and contribute to this running back room and be a better running back than what we're seeing out of Devin Singletary or what we're seeing out of Tyrone Tracy. And I'm not saying get rid of Tyrone Tracy. He's still a relatively young back, even though the New York Giants did sign him or draft him, at a bit of an older age to be a rookie. I still think he's got a lot of gas left. I just don't think that he's necessarily our best option to be running back 2, especially if we're going to be operating within that kind of constraint of running back by committee. I don't think that's going to be the best approach this year. But if you look at John Harbaugh's history with the Baltimore Ravens, especially pre-Derrick Henry, they were always running back by committee. I mean, there would be a slew of all these different running backs there, from Keaton Mitchell to Gus Edwards to just so many different running backs. Dobbins was over there for a while, and they always operated with a running back by committee. But I think that this year we're going to have to rely on Cam Scatterbo a lot if the New York Giants want to go out there and win games, or possibly bring in a guy like Najee Harris, who is visiting with the New York Giants today. And I'm extremely happy about that. When there's a guy that's on my radar and the New York Giants go out there and they sign him, a la Paulson Adebo, who has not looked that great, but still was a guy that was on my radar. I thought the New York Giants and Joe Schoen completely overpaid him, especially coming off the leg injury, but he was one of my guys. Jermaine Illuminor was also one of my guys. So seeing a guy that I'm invested in and I'm encouraging the Giants to bring in, come in for a visit, is definitely exciting. Kind of like Eric McAllister as well, the undrafted rookie free agent who actually had a foot fracture. They got a tryout with the New York Giants, but I think our wide receiver room was just a little bit too deep to bring in a guy like that. Defensively, when we're talking about the run, just still couldn't stop the run. And, I know it's preseason. I'm not going to overreact, but it is a little bit concerning. I know that, we had some guys inactive in this game, but we're going up against a team that had also some players inactive as well. Allowed 111 yards on the ground on 27 attempts, 4.1 yards per carry, 5 rushing first downs by the Minnesota Vikings on the day. I mean, this started from the first play of the game where they ran an outside zone to the left side and basically picked up a first down, got about 12 yards on that play. I thought Darius Alexander looked pretty good in the middle of this defense. Won't have to have that much responsibility moving forward. He played a lot of snaps in this game. He did have the 1 sack, had a couple of ups and downs in this game as well, stopping the run, but Darius Alexander is one of my guys. He was one of my sleepers coming out of Toledo. I just want to see him get better, be a guy that the New York Giants are patient with. And we have 2 other players in front of him that are going to allow for him to have that patient development and that maturation and be able to turn into the player that we think he can be, with Shelby Harris and DJ Reader coming in as the veterans. I thought Chauncey Golston looked really healthy. He looked really good too, but he looked really healthy. And we knew he was dealing with some injuries last year. The TFL that he had in this game, in my opinion, was the best play on both sides of the ball. I know the catch from Malachi Fields is, it's exciting, it's sexy. You see a, 50-50 ball from a guy that's known to be a 50-50 ball guy coming out of Notre Dame. It was great. But I thought that Chauncey Golston's TFL, just the way that he just bullied through that line, used his arm strength to be able to get these guys up off him and then get to the ball carrier. I thought it was a beautiful play. Got to see Chauncey Golston making plays like that. That's going to help us be able to stop the run. You can't forget last year, the New York Giants, I know it's preseason. We allowed them to go over 4 yards per carry in this preseason game, but why it worries me is because the New York Giants rush defense last year was dead last. They allowed, 5.3 yards per carry last season. We got to see that number drastically go down this year if we want to have a shot at winning some games. And the more the New York Giants win games, the more fun the season will actually be. Now, the first quarter is very concerning, and I heard Carl Banks talking about this on the Believe Network podcast that he does with Bob Papa. In the first quarter, the New York Giants were allowing 7 yards per carry. That's dog water, and we can't accept that. We got to get better. I know, obviously, there were a bunch of inactives. Shelby Harris, inactive. DJ Reader, inactive. More defenders on the back end of this defense. Javon Holland, inactive. Brian Burns was inactive in this game. Drew Phillips, basically our best player as far as cornerbacks go, inactive in this game as well. And obviously on the offensive side of the ball, you had Andrew Thomas And you had Malik Neighbors, who didn't play in this game as well. And I thought Darius Slayton was on the field, but he really didn't play in this game. But I do want to show you guys a clip of John Harbaugh talking about why he decided to play certain players and why he decided to let other players that he thought were going to be key contributors sit and not have to play in this game, and why he thought that might be better for some of the starters.
The risk reward of starters playing Jackson and the starters. What did they get out of being out there today?
They got reps in a game, which they're not going to get until the first game if you don't play them in the preseason. And it's different. They played their whole starting defense. We played about half our starting defense to start the game. So I decided not to play some of those starting defensive guys for that reason. I thought that they would benefit more from not playing. But they played their whole starting defense, I think we played all of our starting offense except for our left tackle. And felt like he didn't need it. He would be fine. But felt like the other guys playing together was important, especially with Jackson out there. And our quarterback got 10, 15 plays out there of good football. So, and we got out of it healthy. So it worked.
Totally agree with John Harbaugh on that. Certain players don't need to go out here in preseason and prove anything to this coaching staff. We know what Andrew Thomas is. We know what Malik Neighbors is. He's coming off a big injury. You don't want to put him in harm's way. And coming out of this game basically unscathed is really important for the New York Giants. You don't want any injuries piling up going into the regular season, going into week 1. And I'll tell you what, on that first sack on Jackson Dart, I was extremely worried, man, because as he was evading pressure, his legs kind of got tangled up. And if you go back and you look at it, I have a clip on my Twitter where I slowed it down a little bit. His toe gets caught in the turf, and his ankle is bending as he is being pulled to the ground. And you can literally see the toe give away from the turf and basically save his ankle, or possibly save, possibly some ligaments in his knee even as well. We saw similar happen with Aaron Rodgers a couple of years back with the New York Jets, where he got tackled a little bit awkwardly, fell to the ground, and it ended up being an Achilles. And you just don't want to see things like that happen. Big shout out to my dog, Mac, the Giants fan, one time in the building. This is one of my day one homies here, man. We've been talking New York Giants ball for an eternity since I started, just doing these podcasts and just talking ball on the internet. He says, I would have liked to see the depth guys play the run better. However, no Reader, no Harrison, no Edmonds will have an effect on the run defense, especially since those guys were brought in for that. And that's totally facts. We're going to be a better run defense when we have our starters out there. But I think what today showed, and you alluded to this by talking about some of the depth pieces, is that if any one of our starters goes down, the New York Giants might be in a bit of trouble. And I see another comment here about Micah McFadden, and Dean Shelton says that Micah McFadden is a liability, and I do agree. The thing about Micah McFadden is a lot of the times he's in position to make the play. It's almost like this dude has grease on his hands or something, though, because these ball carriers are just slipping off him, and tackling is not one of his greatest skill sets, which is kind of weird because playing an inside linebacker position, you have to be a good tackler. And Michael McFadden has definitely struggled with tackling during his entire tenure with the New York Giants. I think he'll be a decent depth piece, but you got to watch out for the rookie Jack Kelly coming in and possibly maybe being the next man up before Michael McFadden might get an opportunity. You never know, because Jack Kelly looked really good in this game. J-Dub8 said, I do not want to see Daniel Falele on the field again. Listen, I'm with you. Falele could be a guy that gets cut, and I live in the DMV area. I live in Maryland now. I was in DC for like 7-8 years living out there. Now I just moved right back across the line. I've been in the Maryland area my entire life, born in Maryland. So I know the temperature around here. And a lot of people, blame Harbaugh for a lot of the woes that Lamar Jackson was having. And Daniel Falele is a name that constantly comes up that, basically he had Lamar Jackson running for his life. And John Harbaugh, just because he liked him, would keep Daniel Falele in the starting lineup. So, that's just what I hear around here a lot. There is a bit of rumblance in the Maryland area that they're happy that John Harbaugh is gone and John Harbaugh was holding them back. We'll find out. We'll find out how good of a coach John Harbaugh is. And I'm good with John Harbaugh until I'm not, so I'm going to be a person who's going to, judge the results. And we all know that the NFL is a results-based league. You got to go out there and win games. And, the saying is winning solves everything. So hopefully John Harbaugh can come in here. He's a proven winner. He's got a Super Bowl under his belt. Basically had a winning record every year that he was over there with the Baltimore Ravens. You hope that some of that can just trickle down to the New York Giants and we can get at least going into the right direction. I said this on the last stream that we did during the draft. John Harbaugh, there's a possibility that he might not be the guy that will take the New York Giants to the promised land. But what the hope would be is if that is the case, that he'll be the guy that can at least give the next guy the alley-oop to get the New York Giants to the promised land. And I think John Harbaugh is capable of doing either or. I mean, he could get us to the Super Bowl. I'm a little bit weary about the offensive, the staff that they put around Harbaugh, in a panic move when they couldn't get things right with Todd Monken. But I do think that we'll be able to excel with these guys. And again, it could be the same thing. Like you look at Greg Roman and, some of the people that were around Lamar Jackson during his first couple of years. Yeah, they weren't the people that got Lamar Jackson in that realm of playing the quarterback position that Todd Monken did, which was drop back passer, a guy that could lead the NFL in passing touchdowns, a guy that could kill you with his arm, but also do things with his legs. I mean, Lamar Jackson had ran the ball over 110 times every single season of his career, except the year that Todd Monken got there. So all of these things are to be considered for sure. But I'm being patient, man. And I know that sounds crazy after so many years of being up here and watching the New York Giants lose the amount of games that they have lost. I can say that I'm, comfortable being as patient as I am right now. And I just hope the Giants can go out there and win some games, man. Shout out to my dog one time in the building, Chris Peace, coming in hot with the $4.99 super chat. He says McFadden has back-to-back 100 tackle seasons and hasn't played a game since September 25th, just an FYI. And that's cool. When you play middle linebacker, you're going to get a lot of tackles. I don't know if you remember Tate Crowder. He had over 100 tackles too, and we know the caliber of player that he was as well. I think McFadden can be a decent depth piece, but I don't want to have any situation where Arvell Reese doesn't pan out the way I know he's going to pan out, or Tremaine Edmonds deals with an injury or anything like that. But a big shout out my dog, Chris Peace, one time in the building, representing them New York Giants. You know what it is, man. We got to catch up. I'm about to have a lot of time on my hands, man, so we should get together, have a beer sometime soon, bro. Appreciate you pulling up and rocking out with us today, man. But to get back to the conversation, man, inactives, definitely, we all know that it hurt the New York Giants for sure. Not just up front in the front seven, but also on the back end of the defense. No Paulson Adebo, no Greg Newsome. And a lot of people think that those two guys are going to be the two starters on the outside. But in this game, it was Deonte Banks and second-round pick Colton Hood. Those two guys got to start. I thought Deonte Banks played a little bit of a decent game there. Y'all know I'm super biased. Go Terps all damn day. Deonte Banks played 23 snaps. I thought he had a couple of moments. The first running play of the game was one of them. I thought he had some moments where he kind of lost leverage in the running game. And when you're playing cornerback, man, it's not always about making the tackle on the outside, but it is always about forcing the run back to the inside. And there were a couple of times where Deonte Banks didn't do that. He did have two tackles on the day, and they were two really nice tackles. And one of those tackles stopped a big explosive run. It was, if Deonte Banks didn't make this tackle, it was Tyler Nubin and the running back basically between the end zone. And we've seen that situation happen before, and we know what can happen to Tyler Nubin. He's not the fastest of safeties in the league. But I thought that Deonte Banks had a pretty good day. A lot of people are going to harp on the two penalties. One of them was very questionable. One of them shouldn't have been called. I'll just keep it funky with you. The other one, definitely reasonable. Deonte Banks is definitely a handsy corner. I've been seeing some rhetoric and some narratives going around that Deonte Banks isn't a press man corner. You could say that Deonte Banks isn't great at press man, but that's one of his best skill sets. Coming out of Maryland, that's what he did. I had conversations with Coach Loxley about this just 2 weeks ago, asking him what kind of defense did y'all run when Deonte Banks was over there in Maryland, because I didn't get to film with Maryland, I want to say 2 years after Deonte Banks left. Coach Loxley was telling me, like, look, he was the smartest player on our defense. We could literally just put him out there man on man. He didn't say there were times. He was talking about how most of the time they literally would play four-man press. And that's what Deonte Banks does. Now, he is a handsy, grabby corner, but to play cornerback in this league, you have to use your hands. I heard somebody on my Twitter saying, like, he has to learn how to play without his hands. It's like, you're talking about the wrong football, my guy. That's the soccer version, right? Cornerbacks have to get their hands on wide receivers. When you get right at the line and you're playing bump and run and you're playing press man, the first jab is one of the most important things in the DB's repertoire. You have to be able to do that. I thought Deonte did some good things in coverage. It was a small sample size. It was good enough. I don't know if it looked starter worthy. It definitely looked, depth piece worthy. And, a lot of people gave up on Deonte Banks, and I'm biased. Like I said, I'm a Terp through and through. So it's going to be hard for me to give up on first round talent like that. And I think Deonte Banks is just the most talented cornerback we have on this roster. The most just physically gifted. speed. I don't know if you guys remember when he was coming out the draft, his ROS score, which I know ROS score is kind of bullshit, right? But his ROS score was like a 99%. This dude checks a lot of boxes. We just got to be able to put him in the best position to be able to succeed. And I'm relying on Denard Wilson to be able to do that, not only with him, but to be able to also do that with the rest of this secondary. Now, Deonte Banks had some comments to say about the penalties. He said, the first one I had bad eyes, and that is exactly what happened. He was in position, had outside leverage, peeked into the backfield, and when he peeked into the backfield, he kind of got shook at the line of scrimmage and lost his positioning, and that's why that ended up happening. He was kind of trailing, had to grab the jersey. They're going to call that every time. He said, the first one I had bad eyes, that was on me. The second one, I don't know what you want me to do there, but I'm not a referee. This is what I want Deonte Banks to do in the future. Don't even address the referees. Just say, I got to be better. That's it. Just take accountability. I think he took enough accountability in this instance here, but I think the referee part kind of reminds me of Jackson Dart's comments about the concussion evaluation. It's like, I understand that the NFL is doing their job, but nobody trying to hear that stuff, man. Just take accountability and focus on what's next at hand, what's the next task at hand, and get on to the next game. I thought Colton Hood played decent for a rookie, but definitely didn't look like a guy that we need to thrust out there as a starter anytime soon. 31 snaps, 3 tackles. Neither him or Deonte Banks had any PBUs in this game. He also had an illegal contact penalty. It was on the exact same play as the one that Deonte Banks got called on. And the reception on that play was on Colton Hood. So the Vikings ended up declining that penalty. I thought it was nothing special from Colton Hood. He's a second-round pick. We got to give it time. Obviously, it's just one preseason game. He did allow a few receptions on the day. He's a rookie. I'm willing to be patient. Another thing I wanted to mention that I thought was not something pivotal, but it's just something to maybe keep your eye on, right? We have Drew Phillips, who's dealing with an injury right now. That slot cornerback position is going to be extremely important. Ardarius Washington was brought in to possibly be a guy that could be a depth piece, playing some nickel corner and maybe even playing some safety. He had 12 snaps in this game. 7 of those snaps were in the slot. So they were kind of splitting him between the slot and playing free safety. I thought that was pretty interesting. There were times where Jason Pinnock was on the field with him, and they had Jason Pinnock closer to the line of scrimmage. There were times when Tyler Nubin was on the field with him, and they had Tyler Nubin closer to the line of scrimmage as well. 5 snaps at free safety. I think it's going to be important to keep our eyes on that nickel cornerback position here, just like running back, right? We're bringing in Najee Harris for a free agent visit right now. A guy that I think that the New York Giants might want to take a peek into is Kenny Moore, who is still a free agent, the former Indianapolis Colt, who in my opinion was one of the best nickel cornerbacks in this entire league. And when the Colts had injuries, he showed you that he could not only play in the nickel, he could also play outside. So I think he could basically be a 2 birds, 1 stone type of thing, where if you need a guy who can be a depth piece or even a starter at one of those positions, but more importantly, could be a depth piece at 2 different positions in the secondary, those are the kind of players that you might want to bring in. But Ardarius Washington, I thought he looked shifty. Definitely doesn't have the kind of physicality that Drew Phillips has. And I think Kenny Moore is more of that mold and might fit that a little bit better, but is going to cost a little bit more money than a guy like Ardarius Washington. Jack Kelly, love what I saw out of him. We knew coming out of college, all you had to do was see a couple of his plays. That dude is a thumper for sure. He's not the fastest, not the most fluid, not the kind of linebacker that's going to go sideline to sideline, right? But he is the kind of guy that's going to be able to get after the quarterback, be an asset against the run, most importantly, where the New York Giants need the most help. And he actually led the New York Giants with 5 tackles on the day. So that's a great thing. Arvell Reese, man, it's just it's fantastic to watch Arvell Reese on the football field. He is just the definition of just a fearless player. He puts his body in harm's way like no other player does on our defense. And I thought that Kayvon Thibodeau was going to come into the league with that same kind of mentality, because when Kayvon was coming out of Oregon, I thought that he had some of that in his repertoire. But then when he had that early knee injury where I believe that was Randy Moss's son or Randy Moss's nephew that chop blocked him early on in the preseason and had Kayvon Thibodeau out for a couple of games in his rookie year, it seems like that kind of made Kayvon a little bit more timid from that point moving on. It could have just been something that was just really never a part of his game on this level as well. But Arvell Reese is just fearless. Even when he's out of position, when he gets back in position, he's throwing his body all over the place. He reminds me of old school football. He reminds me of the big neck roll on the shoulder pads. When you look at his stance, it's just a beautiful thing to see a guy like that creates that intimidation type of value for our defense. All of our other guys, and you all know, I complain about it all the time, how the New York Giants are built around speed and not built around power. We really don't have those traditional edge rushers that are the bigger guys. Chauncey Golston is a guy that can kind of serve as that. But, we have two guys that are basically speed edge rushers, now three with Abdul Carter there with Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. So I like adding this guy, Arvell Reese, to the repertoire because he brings that physicality. He brings that type of mentality that when you get to the fourth quarter, running backs are going to shy away from him. There was a play in this game where the Minnesota Vikings saw Arvell Reese weak side, and I don't know if it was an audible or check at the line or what. They thought they could run right at Arvell Reese because he was weak side, and they sent two guys at him, and Arvell Reese completely obliterated both of those guys and ended up creating the lane for the next man to come in and make the tackle. It was just a beautiful thing to see, and I'm going to talk about Arvell Reese a ton here. I think this is probably a good time to use a giant overreaction here. So we got a bunch of y'all in the building, man. Big shout out to the gang representing with us today, talking some New York Giants football. I know y'all are the elite of the elites when it comes to New York Giants fans because there are a lot of people that aren't even paying attention to this preseason shit right now. But we are the football nerds that love all this shit. And if you love football like how I love football, I'm sure that's what brought you into this room. You're probably scouring YouTube like, hey, New York Giants news, Jackson Dart news, all of that stuff. That's the stuff that I do. Over here on the Giant Overreaction, what we do is we play statements on the screen that come from social media or they come from national media or, some of these sports shows that are on, national television and whatnot. And when you see the statement on the screen, if you think it's an overreaction and you don't agree with it, you can put an O in the chat to represent you taking the overreaction and that you disagree with the stance that is in the statement, and tell me why in the chat. We're going to go through a couple of these in a second here. Now, if you agree with the statement on the screen, I want you to put a U in the chat to represent that you are taking the under on the overreaction and you agree with the statement that you see on the screen. If you are kind of in a limbo a little bit and you really don't know, you need some more time, I'll allow you to take the push. It's preseason. You can put a P in the chat to represent that you are taking the push. This first giant overreaction is actually one of my tweets. I like to put the spotlight on me on my show. I don't know if all of y'all are going to agree with this one wholeheartedly 100%, but let's go ahead and get off into this first giant overreaction. All right, this one comes from the GOAT on Twitter, Mr. Authentic himself, and I kind of simplified it on the screen a little bit just so it wouldn't be a whole paragraph on the screen and whatnot. But me and Carl Banks are good homies. We talk ball a lot, man. I got to get Carl on the show one time. I know he's a busy man doing the play-by-play and doing his podcast with Bob Papa and whatnot. But I hit up Carl Banks on Twitter. I said, Carl, I just want to say Arvell Reese is the first player in a long time that reminds me of you and the squad from back in the day. Now, Carl responded, and I think he was trying to be, I don't think he wanted to overreact, right? So he said he is a baller for all eras, for sure. And I totally agree with that. And it was a very limited sample size from Arvell Reese in this game. 16 snaps, 4 pass plays. I thought he looked pretty good in pass protection. We're going to talk about some of the banter that we have had with some of the Washington Commanders fans. But I thought that Arvell Reese looked pretty good in pass, just dropping back on pass plays and playing coverage. I thought he looked pretty good. He had 2 tackles on the day. He got washed out on 2 plays that I counted. I got a chance to look at all of his tape on the All-22. It looked like exactly what I wanted to see. Coming into this draft, I didn't think that the New York Giants had a shot at drafting Arvell Reese. And I had said when I thought that he wasn't going to be a New York Giant, that I have a feeling that Arvell Reese is going to be the star from this draft. And I still feel like that, a couple of months later after one preseason game. David Bailey looks like he could be a star from this draft as well. I think it's either going to be him or Arvell Reese on the defensive side of the ball. But Reese just completely blew up a couple of running plays. And these are the things that I think the casual fan doesn't necessarily see, because the casual fan, and even myself when I watch ball on Sundays, I'm watching the ball, right? I'm not watching necessarily the player. But when you go back and you watch all 22, you can keep rewinding the play and look at it from his perspective and then rewind it and look at it from another perspective. And I did that with Arvell Reese for maybe 2 hours yesterday looking at these 16 snaps. And he's just the definition of tenacity. And I also think there's a quote that represents him so well. If you mess up, just mess up full speed. Arvell Reese does that. There was a time where, when he was defending the pass, you could tell that he kind of got out of position real quick, and he just got right back into position. You could tell he knew the mistake, but he's full speed throughout. And then there was another time where it looked like he took the wrong lane for a gap, and he realized the ball carrier was coming down that gap. Now, the ball carrier ended up getting about 8 yards, but Arvell Reese chased him down the field, jumped on this man's back, and tackled him down to the ground. Like, he literally leaped up as he was chasing him. And this is the kind of shit that you just do not see from rookies in the NFL. It reminded me of the type of play and tenacity that we saw from guys like Aiden Hutchinson. It reminded me of the kind of shit that we would see from the Bosa's. It was that kind of play where it's like, I don't care what's going on with my body. And I think that might be something that could get Arvell Reese into trouble down the line, because when you play like that, you are putting your body in harm's way. It makes me think of Alvin Mack from the movie The Program, right? Like, Alvin Mack was the most feared player in that whole movie, right? And what ended up happening, this dude, he's talking all kinds of trash at the line of scrimmage. He's putting fear in everybody's heart. He met the one dude that he didn't put that fear in. And yeah, it was a movie, but we all know that art imitates life. And he ended up being sidelined for the rest of the year with a blown out knee. So I am, looking at Arvell Reese, thinking of that, but that's the way you got to play the game. You cannot play this game scared. He plays the game violent. He plays the game with a great pad level. Like, Arvell Reese, before the snap, when you just see the quarterback going through his cadence and looking at the line, I saw Diggy talking about this on his breakdown, his all-22 breakdown. No one stands like Arvell Reese. Like, he's standing like, look, put the kids away. I'm about to fuck y'all up. That's how he's standing. And those are the kind of enforcers that I want on my defense. And when you combine that with some of the speed guys that we have, if you can create the necessary balance on this defense and then have the back end of this defense playing some sound coverage, this Giants defense has a lot of young pieces that could definitely be contributors and make this defense into a top 10 defense. We haven't had a top 10 defense since Patrick Graham was the defensive coordinator. And I always thought that top 10 defense, that was the defense that had James Bradbury playing corner and whatnot. I always thought it was a little bit of smoke as far as it being a top 10 defense. But Patrick Graham, with that soft zone scheme, he had them in good position that year. But I just love what I'm seeing from Reese, his ability to diagnose run plays and just go. There were times where it's like, and I get it, these are vanilla plays in the preseason, but there were just times where Arvell Reese, like, as the quarterback said hike, it's like he knew it was a run play. Like, he was running in the direction that the running back was running in before the running back took off, which was just it was mind-boggling to me, to be honest. But I love that kind of fearless style. And shout out to my dog at NYG Matt. I thought he put this perfectly. He said, Arvell Reese is so ridiculous. He's what DMX would have been as a NFL linebacker. And I thought that was spot on. Maybe there's a better rapper comparison than DMX, but I think DMX is a really, 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 really good example of what Arvell Reese would be, if you were to take a rapper and put him at linebacker in the NFL. So for me, this one's a no-brainer, man. Put them U's in the chat. I'm absolutely taking the under on this one. Like, Arvell Reese just looks like a different type of animal. And if you look around some of the rhetoric that's going around the NFL right now from, some of the national guys and some of the people that I highly respect, the Brett Colemans, Chris Sims of the world, these guys that are, doing content actively, regularly, they see it as well, man. And I think Arvell Reese is just poised for a incredible NFL career, man. I'm really looking forward to it in a major way because we haven't had guys like that in a long time. Let me see what the chat is saying here one time. I'm really looking to see if there's any overreactions here from particularly New York Giants fans, because I see one of my homies in the chat that's not a Giants fan. We'll start off with him. Shout out to my dog, Kevin, the PRF, one time in the building. He says it's an overreaction. We as fans love to put our new rookies in gold jackets based on an extremely small sample size, training camp and a preseason game. Well, I think Kevin, the PRF, is smart enough to know that I have not only looked at training camp and a preseason game. As a matter of fact, I haven't even looked at anything from training camp. I can't even look at that stuff with the way that John Harbaugh has had training camp, very locked down this year. Like, beat reporters can't even tweet during training camp. But I looked at every one of Arvell Reese's snaps in college. And listen, Kevin, the PRF, is a Commanders fan, and I'm going to post the link here in the chat for you guys. I want you to go check out this viral tweet that I put up yesterday, where I compared Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles going head-on with a fullback in a head-on collision. Arvell Reese is what the New York Giants need. I don't know if Sonny Styles is what the Washington Commanders need, but I know that Sonny Styles was not what the New York Giants needed. Sonny Styles is a 6'5" Mike linebacker who His entire game is predicated on athleticism and speed. We needed the power guys like I described. And Arvell Reese, maybe you need to just go look at the compilations of the All-22 and try to compare it to your guy. He brings that attitude that the New York Giants need. And I'm confident in the evaluation, to be honest. I don't know if this guy's going to be a fucking gold jacket guy. I can't say, hey, this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I can say that he plays the game like the old school greats for the New York Giants. He plays the game like the guys like Carl Banks, like the guys like Harry Carson, like the guys like Lawrence Taylor. I'm not sitting up here telling you that he's going to be Lawrence Taylor, but I think that this is a very easy evaluation, kind of like when Michael Parsons came into the league. When Michael Parsons came into the league, we knew. We knew he was going to be a guy. When Aiden Hutchinson came into the league, we knew he was going to be a guy. With Kayvon Thibodeau, we didn't crown him. We didn't know. We were ecstatic about the draft pick being selected 5th overall, and at the time, getting Evan Neal at the same time. It was a beautiful thing, right? But I don't remember Giants fans going, oh, this is a generational guy or any shit like that. Abdul Carter, a lot of people were extremely happy to get Abdul Carter in blue with the New York Giants as well, but I don't remember the comparisons of, hey, this guy's going to be a gold jacket guy. I, in fact, even remember when Abdul Carter asked for Lawrence Taylor's number, most New York Giants fans were saying, hey, big dog, pump the brakes, sit the fuck down. So I can't speak for all New York Giants fans, but I can speak for, this small corner of the internet. And over here, I think we operate in rationale over here on Authentic in the Beard. And I think a lot of the chat isn't looking at Arvell Reese as a gold jacket guy, but we're looking at Arvell Reese as a day one contributor. I mean, that's why he's going to start at inside linebacker from day one. And I think he's got the goods to be one of those dudes. Say Less says that Reese is an animal. Yeah, I think anybody that watched the snaps, you can see it. There are certain players that just pop, and Arvell Reese is one of those guys. I can remember when the reports were coming out of training camp. Pat Leonard, shout out to Pat Leonard. He said, okay, everyone's tackling here at camp, and you can hear the tackles, but when Arvell Reese makes a tackle, the thud that you hear on the pop from the shoulder pads, it's a little different. And we saw that in the game. The link that I just posted in the chat, Kevin the PRF, go check it out. Just go look at how he demolishes that fullback. And I expect that to be a reoccurring theme with Arvell Reese throughout his tenure as a New York Giant. I don't know what Sonny Styles is going to be, but I just don't think that he was the right guy for the New York Giants. I know you didn't bring up Sonny Styles, but I just don't think he's going to be one of those dudes. I do think that Reese is an animal, like Say Less is saying here. DeIlla says easily, and DeIlla is somebody that has been very critical about the players up front on the New York Giants. I recommend y'all go check out his content. He puts out great content, very realistic takes, very raw takes, and just might ruffle some feathers and might offend some people a little bit if you're one of those people that are kind of you get offended by people that disagree with you. I'm not one of those people. I actually look for people that disagree with me, but more importantly, I look for people that disagree with me that can support their stance. That's how I view things. But DeIlla's a fantastic content creator. He said easily taking the under. I've been all about Reese since the day we drafted him. I liked him more than I did Abdul. Me too. I didn't think that we had a chance to draft Arvell Reese. So I thought it was just like out of the question, to be honest. So when people were talking Sonny Styles at 5, I was like, I don't know about that. I'd actually prefer to go for the weapon there or go for a guy like Caleb Downs. I would have loved to come out of that first round with a weapon in Caleb Downs, but coming out of that first round with Francis Maui-Noah and more importantly, Arvell Reese, man, it's great. I've got no complaints. Shout out Mindwave416 in the building, says he's taking the push. Not really sure. I for sure watched the ball mostly. Yeah, that's how most of us watch the game, right? Like we're following the ball. You got to have a lot of time, and I do have a lot of time on my hands for the most part, especially during football season, to just, scour the tape. And I do recommend that there are people out here that are trying to encourage fans to not get the NFL Plus account. And they think that, it's a detriment to the game to be able to put all 22 in the hands of people that don't necessarily understand what they're watching. And I respect that. But the only way to learn is to be able to see the game. And I recommend everybody go out there and get an NFL Plus account. Their base account is $9.99. And you get to see the replays of every team in the NFL, all games, every week, preseason, regular season, playoffs, all of that from the all 22. And when you go into the film room, you can break it down like by the type of play. You can look at only red zone plays. You can look at rushing plays. You can look at passing plays. You can look at plays that are down in distance. relative. Like, it's just a great system to be able to really understand what you're watching as a football fan. And for me, I like to try to be the most knowledgeable version of myself that I can be as a football fan. So I'm always looking at the All 22. I recommend MindWave. Check it out, man. Get you that NFL Plus account. You can watch all the games that aren't locally broadcasted in your area as well. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's worth it. I do it through the entirety of the offseason so I can catch up on stuff as well. And I recommend that even the most casual of casual fans go out there and get yourself an NFL Plus account. Shout out my dog Bluegrass. He said, I loved playing linebacker. Watching Reese fill that hole on a lead blocker was fun. It was my favorite take, man. It was just like my favorite tape to watch. Like, he doesn't make the tackle, but he's completely blowing up the fullback and forcing him to cut back. Gotta love that kind of stuff, man. That's going to pay dividends in the future for the New York Giants. Let's see what else we got here. Let me check the super chats while we're at it too. I see no caps in my rack says he's taking the under. Out of everybody on the team, I'm most confident number 52 will be in the bleachers one day. If I had to pick a guy right now on this roster that is going to be a guy they're going to hang his number in the rafter, it would be Arvell Reese. And I know Brian Burns been balling. Like, Brian Burns proved me. I wanted Brian Burns to raise his level of play after his first season with the Giants, and he did that in the most major way. Brian Burns was second in the NFL in sacks to Myles Garrett last year. Brian Burns is a fucking dog. Love Brian Burns. But Arvell Reese just brings that. It's just something a little different with Arvell Reese. And I think having both of those guys on our team, who knows, maybe both of those numbers could be in the rafters one day for sure. Trisha said that Carl Banks agreed with that. He does, yeah. And I saw Carl Banks saying that Sonny Styles shouldn't be an off-ball linebacker, being an inside linebacker. And I kind of tend to agree with that as well. But I don't know if I could put him at edge. Maybe a Jalen Petrie kind of a role where you're like semi-DB, semi-linebacker, something like that, kind of like some of the stuff they were trying to do with Isaiah Simmons. Mac, the Giants fan, said he's taking the under. Arvell Reese is totally locked in. He is primed to be the next great New York Giants linebacker. I'm with you. We haven't had a guy like this in a long time, man. Like, it makes me think about like Antonio Pierce type days, maybe. Like, we really have not had a guy in the middle of this defense that plays with that kind of ferocious style. I'm excited to see him in the regular season. He's going to make some mistakes, but I think in a couple of years, he's going to be one to be reckoned with for sure. Deaton said he's taking the under for show. He bleeds football and will show up for us as expected. I agree. Sully's in the building. Sully said he's taking the under. He is so physical and gets off blocks. Yeah, and effortlessly gets off the blocks. You see these guys who got to use all their might to get off the block. Arvell Reese is just like, get off me. You can tell that strength is a natural thing for him. And to think that Arvell Reese just turned 21 a couple of days ago is fucking crazy. It's absolutely fucking crazy. Say Less said he's taking the under as well. Shout out my dog, Holmes with Jay in the building, man. Good to see you here one time. Says he's taking the under. Dude will be a monster, has the intimidation factor on lock, and his skill set is only going to grow. Love this dude. Simeon Toko said he is an old school head knocker, and I love that. That's facts, man. That's facts, bro. It seems like we are all on the same page as far as Arvell Reese. I'm delighted to have a player like that on my team. Let's tap in with some of these super chats, man. I definitely want to prioritize those, and then we'll move on to talking about some of the more intriguing topics like Jackson Dart. I know y'all want to have that conversation. We definitely gonna have that conversation, and I'm definitely gonna keep it real on that conversation for sure. Let's see. Door Gunner coming in one time with the $5 super chat. Says, what up, player? It's been a hot minute. Ready for this season to start. Got everything ready to go for my trip to Colts versus Commanders in London. That's going to be amazing. I had a homie go overseas and check out the Commanders one time a couple of years back and said it was amazing. So I know you're going to enjoy that. That's something I want to do someday when the New York Giants get to travel overseas. I think this year the New York Giants don't have any games overseas, but last year and the year before that they did. But definitely enjoy that. Good to see you back in the building, Door Gunner. I know you represented those Commanders one time. Very biased Commanders fan, or unbiased, I'm sorry. Very unbiased Washington Commanders fan, man. It's always good to chop it up with my Commanders homies. Y'all know I live in the DMV area and whatnot. Door Gunner coming in with the $2 version of the super chat as well. The super chat. He said, Banks better or NYG wide receivers that bad without Neighbors? The wide receiver core is not that great. We're going to talk about that next. There's truth to that for sure. I think Deonte Banks, it's just about just getting in the right scheme that can allow him to just be who he is and play free. And we're seeing that with Arvell Reese. I think Denard Wilson is going to be able to do that with Deonte Banks. This is what I'll say. Don't let it be a surprise if come week 1, the starting corners are Deonte Banks and somebody else. Don't let that be a surprise. And I've been hearing a couple of things. I've been hearing some things. Don't let that be a surprise. Paulson Adebo is having his fair share of struggles in camp and is dealing with an injury as well. And Greg Newsome is a guy that I saw some of his tape when he was with Cleveland. I remember the game against Cleveland when we played them 2 years ago, I believe it was. And Wan'Dale Robinson was giving him fits, man. So I think Greg Newsome is a guy that is capable and can be a contributor as far as a depth piece goes. And, when called upon to be in the starting lineup, if somebody goes down, can be that guy. But the cornerback room is something that the Giants might want to address. I was talking to a homie about it right before we got on air as well. Dorgunner coming in with another super chat. See, Dorgunner trying to have his voice heard, man. I wish I could keep my eye on the chat the way I want to, but there's just so much going on with producing the show and trying to keep things in flow here. But shout out to Dorgunner with the $5 super chat. He said, I love tuning into NFC East creators, especially ones who know what they're talking about. Need to learn about what is going on with the ops. It's important, man. And I'm the same way. I tune into a lot of content creators that aren't necessarily NFC East driven, but I think what you're trying to say here is that they possibly cover another team within the NFC East. Like, I always go check out Skywalker's streams as well. Me and Vach gonna catch up and do a stream. Shout out to Vach, man. He hit me up just randomly like, yo, what's up, man? You been good? I seen you ain't been active and whatnot. You straight? We got to get up, chop it up, talk some ball. So we're definitely gonna do that soon. Who's my other dog? With the Philadelphia Eagles, bro. Lord Brunson. I rock with Brunson heavy on Twitter. He's fucking hilarious. Commanders is not a lot of content creators out there. Louis T, I check out some of his stuff. The beard obviously, keeps me up to date, and I live in the area, so I get to check a lot of y'all out as well. But I'm the same way, definitely the same way, man. Love tuning into some great NFC East content, and you got to know the op. You got to know the op, man. I think a lot of fans suffer from that they don't study the upgrades from the other teams, and when it comes time for that regular season, you open up the year on a Sunday night performance, get blown out 40-0, and it's a surprise to you. That's why I keep my eyes on the ops at all times. You already know what it is. Shout out my dog Dorgunner one time. And big shout out Sarah in the building one time, rocking out with us. I knew you would be here representing those Minnesota Vikings. She says, hey, Jordan Love, how was your offseason? How has your offseason been? It's been fantastic. Like I said at the top of the stream, a lot of opportunities. I'm full of gratitude because, I just feel like I'm somebody that I'm not overworked. I'm not underpaid. And there are a lot of people, especially with the conditions of the economy right now, that's not the case for them. So I'm blessed, highly favored, and things are going extremely well. Like you'll see, I'd say in about 9 months, I'll be plugging some stuff that we were working on over the summer and over the spring that some big news, just been working on some big projects, and I'm grateful for that stuff that is fun, but also high level, high caliber type of shit. And I'm trying to bring some of that over to the channel as well too. Y'all know that the documentary vibe is something that I want to bring to the New York Giants and the NFC East community. Just very inspired by what HBO is doing with Hard Knocks, very inspired with what Netflix is doing with a lot of their series with the quarterback, the wide receiver stuff and all that. And I want to bring those vibes over here as well. But shout out to Sarah and shout out to the preseason victory. Shout out to the preseason victory, 13-10. Let's see. Dorgunner got another one. I'm catching up. We're going to go through these real quickly. Dart back from the Shadow Realm yet. Brutal sack. We're going to talk about that next. Yeah, that sack was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And one more from Dorgunner. He said, pass rush won't matter if the run defense isn't good and those corners aren't good. If they can slow the run, that pass rush could eat for the New York Giants. And I totally agree with you on that as well. The pass rush is going to be just as important, lending their hand to helping out that secondary. Because if we can get after the quarterback, it's definitely going to help out that secondary. But your point about stopping the run, it all starts right there. If they can't stop the run, they're not going to be able to pin their ears back. Pin their beers back. That's for me. But pin their ears back and get after quarterbacks because the opposing team is not going to be in the down and distance type of situations that will allow the New York Giants to get after the quarterback. So 100% correct. You got to find a way to stop the run first and then get after that quarterback. And I think this secondary could be just fine. That's not to say that we shouldn't go out there and upgrade the position, though. I think it's important that the Giants should go out there and bring in another cornerback that can compete. Holmes with Jay says, should we pack up Tyrone Tracy Jr. for Najee Harris? That missed block got me in my feelings a little bit, can't lie. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The missed block it was critical. But I don't know, man. I think I would give up on Devin Singletary first before I give up on Tyrone Tracy. And maybe there's a team that is running back needy out there that, you could maybe trade. Maybe. I don't think Devin Singletary has much trade value, but maybe Devin Singletary and something else. Bring in like a 7th rounder or something. I'm not too sure. JDJ said 9 months. We getting an authentic junior? Nah. Go ahead, dog. Yeah, go ahead, dog. I need an authentic junior because I got a lot of shit going on, man. I need somebody to, delegate some of these tasks to and whatnot. And, the Beard just had his baby last year as well, too. So the timing would be good. But we'll see. We'll see, man. But I wasn't talking about an authentic junior when I was talking about 9 months from now. Tom said, LOL, 9 months. See what we've been working on. Yeah. I could make some crazy inappropriate jokes right now. But I'll definitely spare y'all. Let me see. Sully had one question, and then we'll keep the show pushing here. He said, if Christian Gonzalez became available, what would it realistically take? Kayvon plus a first? More? I feel it would be less than Sauce since he needs a contract. There's a part of me that doesn't even want to entertain the Christian Gonzalez talk because the Patriots would be fools to get rid of him. He's probably the best young corner in the league, and I'm including Sauce in that as well. Sauce is great, but I would take Christian Gonzalez over Sauce any day. What it would take, a first rounder, Kayvon, and maybe some change. Maybe it was 2 first rounders for Sauce, I believe, wasn't it? I can't remember exactly, but I think it was 2 first rounders for Sauce. But I don't know if I want to entertain that right now. Like I said, I'm patient with the New York Giants, and I think we got to just wait on what we have to develop. And Christian Gonzalez is a great young piece. You got to consider it if he becomes available via trade. You got to consider it, but I just don't think it's a realistic thing that's going to happen right now. We shall see. Let's see. JFed4942 said Miller got injured, groin. That's the main reason Najee's in the building. Running back depth needed. I wouldn't say that's the main reason because Turbo Miller's a guy that you can't forget. He was not on our 53-man roster last year, and I don't think he was guaranteed a spot this year either. Carrying more than 3 running backs on the active roster, that's going to be questionable for the New York Giants. But I think that Najee Harris is being brought in because maybe a portion of it is Turbo Miller, bringing another body for sure, but also see, hey, let's kick these tires and see if there's a little bit of tread left on those tires. I think it has a lot to do with that as well. Let's see. We'll take this last one and we'll keep the show pushing here. Holmes with Jay said, Art Stapleton is pushing the Odell stays on the team narrative super heavy. I tend to agree. I see him as wide receiver 3 to 4-ish because we are still light at wide receiver. Does Odell get cut or make the team? We're not going to let the cat out the bag just yet on that because that's going to be about one of the giant overreactions we're going to go over today. But I like what I'm seeing from Odell Beckham, and we're going to talk about the wide receivers here next. So, just hang tight. We're definitely going to talk about that. But let's get into it. Let's talk about these wide receivers one time, man. I think it's going to be important to break this down because this room is super, super important to Jackson Dart's success. So, matter of fact, before we talk about the wide receiver room, let's do a little briefing on Jackson Dart because I think that those two things are tied a little bit hand in hand. So let's go ahead and talk about Jackson Dart a little bit here and keep it pushing. All right, man. Y'all know Jackson Dart is my son. That's my guy. When all the Shedeur Sanders hoopla was going around New York, I was like, Jackson Dart is the next quarterback up for us, to be honest. Cam Ward's going to be drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Quarterback 2 in this draft is Jackson Dart. And I think last year's season not only proved that, and it also proved that Jackson Dart and Cam Ward are not that far apart. A lot of people look at Cam Ward's play and they go, Cam Ward really ain't it. But if you truly look at the tape, Cam Ward has the goods. It's just about putting the talent around him. And I think the same goes for Jackson Dart. Now, Dart was on the field for 15 plays. The personnel packages were a little bit interesting. I know most New York Giants fans thought that we were going to come out here and run basically 90% 12 and 13 personnel. But they're implementing the fullback a ton for the New York Giants. 4 snaps in 21P, which was 2 running backs, 1 tight end. 1 snap in 12P, which was 1 running back, 2 tight ends. 8 snaps in 11P, that's the 3 wide receiver sets, with 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 2 snaps in 22P with 2 running backs and 2 tight ends. Now, John Harbaugh again said that this game plan we didn't game plan for the Vikings. It was not team specific, is what he said. So I look at this as a bit of a vanilla game plan. And I know a lot of people are speaking about Matt Nagy looking like shit and all this, all the overreactions. They're all happening, right? Especially off that screen pass that Jackson Dart threw in the dirt. I don't know if people thought that like that play was like some kind of fake to the left side with Jackson Dart and he spun around to throw it to Tyrone Tracy on the opposite side, but that's not what it was. It was just a basic ass arrow bubble screen over there on the right side. The snap was so bad that Jackson Dart tried to do some spinning and try to make a play out of it, and he couldn't do that. But Jackson Dart, it was a small sample size. We saw what Jackson Dart can do last year. He was 3 for 4 for just 26 yards in this game. And I'll tell you what bothers me a little bit about that is that the last time we played the Minnesota Vikings, his numbers looked a bit like that through the entirety of the game. He did have the one touchdown, 6.5 yards per attempt. His passer rating was 131.2, so that's good, but it's such a small sample size that there's not really a lot to that number. Zero. See Jackson Dart running the ball because that's going to be a bit of a main staple for our offense. He was sacked 2 times on the day, and what bothers me about that is that during the entirety of the preseason last year when Jackson Dart was a rookie and played in 3 games, he was sacked just 2 times total in all of those games. So we got to find a way to keep Jackson Dart upright. The emphasis going into this year is Jackson Dart needs to protect himself, and the Giants' offensive line and running backs in particular here need to be able to keep Jackson Dart upright. Now, I saw a lot of people talking about Jackson Dart being a one-read quarterback, and he still looked like it. And there were portions of his game that looked like that, but those struggles are to be expected from a rookie. And the play where he pump faked to Isaiah Likely on the quick slant where the safety came down, that was a great play where he brought the ball down. It could have been an interception had he had thrown that ball. But what I didn't like was that Francis Mauigoa getting beat on that play to the inside on a one-on-one matchup. It was 6v6 protection. It's a one-on-one matchup. You got to be able to keep your quarterback upright. Now, when Jackson Dart pump fakes that ball and brings it back down, he's got a little bit of pressure in his face, and his natural knack was to go to look for the run. But I thought the change in his demeanor was when he went to go look for the run, he wasn't just looking to run and get out the pocket and get downfield. He was looking to run and get out of the pocket and be able to throw the ball down the field. I saw his eyes go downfield, and then the other defender was right in his face, and he had to make a game-time decision. The part I didn't like is how he was getting folded up a little bit. Like I said earlier, that ankle looked like it almost got stuck in the turf. And we saw the injury to the safety for the Minnesota Vikings, Jamal Adams, basically a non-contact injury, and he's out for the year. Could you imagine if we lost Jackson Dart in a preseason game, how that would have looked? I don't want to speak that into existence, but those were the kind of things that I was thinking about when I'm seeing the protection break down the way that it was. Now, Brian Flores was showing a lot. This was a preseason game, and Brian Flores didn't say, hey, we didn't game plan for the New York Giants like John Harbaugh said about the Vikings. You saw a lot of simulated pressures in this game. You saw a lot of blitzes. You saw a lot of 7, 8-man boxes from the Minnesota Vikings as well, and you just can't forget. In 2025, Brian Flores held Jackson Dart to just 33 yards passing in a 16-13 victory. So Brian Flores knows how to keep Jackson Dart in check, and not just Jackson Dart, young, mobile, elusive quarterbacks. Brian Flores has always been a guy that excelled in that department. And, I think that there was a bit of spite, like the whole lawsuit with the New York Giants, not getting the head coaching job a couple of years back. I think Brian Flores, wanted to send a middle finger to the New York Giants, upper staff and whatnot with the owners, the general manager, and all that. Now, it's a small sample size, but I thought Jackson Dart looked pretty damn good in this game. I really did. I thought he looked pretty damn good. And I think we know what to expect from Jackson Dart, but we really just want to see him protect himself. And you're seeing that word narrative getting thrown around. And people throw this narrative word around as if this shit is all just made up out of thin air. Like the 6 concussion evaluations that now Jackson Dart has had are just like, oh, we're just fucking around with Jackson Dart. We need to bring him into the blue tent. It's happening on plays where Jackson Dart is taking big shots. This one, it was out of his control. There's nothing that Jackson Dart could have done in this game to avoid that hit. Tyrone Tracy blew the block, and that's just what it is. But I thought he bounced back well. The touchdown was maybe one of the best throws we saw on the entire weekend of football. And I thought the pocket presence was still there. That's something that Jackson Dart has excelled in throughout his small NFL career. And I thought the pocket presence was there. No Malik Neighbors on the field. That's going to make things extremely difficult because outside of that, the New York Giants offense still lacks weapons. I love the touchdown catch from Malachi Fields, but we are still talking about a rookie out here. And we're talking about a rookie that, was drafted on day 2. So there are just still a lot of question marks when it comes to this New York Giants offense. Malik's coming back off the injury. He looked healthy, though, in training camp. And Cam Scadaboo's coming off the injury, and he also looked healthy. But you just don't know what's going to happen when we do end up getting to the regular season. Now, before we get off into talking about the wide receivers, I think we need to be a little bit long-winded and talk about the hit and talk about the blue tent. We got to do that. And let's just use a giant overreaction to talk about it. So let's get off into our second giant overreaction of the day. All right, now, this one also a little bit condensed on the screen. I will read the full entire tweet that came from @GMen with a couple of E's on that one time. He says, Dart gets sent to the tent now because it is a narrative. There was no reason for him to be checked today. Now, I'm going to just keep it straight funky with y'all. I think that not only this tweet, but a lot of the rhetoric that is being thrown around the Giants community from fans, from content creators, I think it's all an overreaction about the issues at hand concerning player safety. Jackson Dart took a massive hit at the end of that first quarter, and Tyrone Tracy completely whiffed on the block. After the game, Tyrone Tracy said, on that play, I heard an alert to the other side. So I had my eyes to the left instead of the right. There isn't really anything I can do at that point besides apologize and tell Jackson Dart it isn't going to happen again, which it won't. He also said something about you can go back and look at his reps in pass protection, and that has never happened, and it won't happen again. And I love hearing that from Tyrone Tracy, but what I don't love seeing is my quarterback on his back the way that we saw him, laid out basically like a corpse on the middle of the New York Giants logo. And some people are saying, oh, he popped right back up. I counted it. He was on the turf for 3 seconds before he rolled over, looked around, and then got up. Harbaugh said, I'm not going to be critical of the league. They do their job, and they want to protect the players. We'll just keep playing football, and we'll just try to do a better job of protecting Jackson Dart. And there's no way he should have been hit there. And that's the part that I absolutely agree with. But what fans are saying to me is a rhetoric that comes from people who are not acting like adults. People are saying the media is causing this. People are saying, oh, well, he didn't even get hit in the head. I even saw somebody say that there is a target on Jackson Dart's back because of his political stance and that he supports Donald Trump. I've seen people saying he's had 6 evaluations, but he hasn't had a concussion, so why do they keep bringing him back into the tent? I heard Tiki Barber say that live on WFAN today. That's like, I've gone to the doctor 5 years in a row, so why the fuck should I go to the doctor in year 6? They didn't find nothing the first 5 years. To me, it is just the type of thinking that you see from people that are children. Honestly, that's just my opinion on it. Everyone is saying that Dart is being targeted by the NFL, and I don't think he's being targeted by the NFL, but I do think that he is a bit underneath the microscope because of what happened last year. You look at the Chicago Bears game where this dude is on the field after clearly being concussed, didn't go to the blue tent, ends up after the game, this guy has a concussion. So not only are they looking at Jackson Dart, but they're looking at the way that the New York Giants handle this. This is the thing about the concussions and the protocol of bringing a player into the blue tent. There are neurologists on the side of the field, right, that the NFL hires that if they see a hit that they deem needs to be checked, they're going to pull the player off. But also the New York Giants training staff has the ability to be able to do that. Clearly, in this case, the Giants staff isn't the ones that pull Jackson Dart off the field. It's obviously the NFL because John Harbaugh is complaining about it, right? Dart was laying there lifeless for too long for the NFL to not go, hey, we need to go at least check this guy out. I think Giants fans should be fortunate that Jackson Dart was only off the field for one play. They should also be fortunate that Jameis Winston is the backup because he came in, threw a screen pass to Devin Singletary, who scampered down the field for 40 yards. And by the time Devin Singletary got tackled, he was running so slow that when he got up to celebrate, Jameis Winston was right there with him. And I love Jameis Winston being the backup on this team because things like that can happen. It'll set up a touchdown for Jackson Dart down the future, and that's exactly what we saw in this game. But a lot of people are saying, well, he didn't even hit his head on the turf. Well, yeah, you can see that when you're watching the game from the comfort of your home from a beautiful NFL broadcast. I know when you go to a game, it looks different, right? Like, you ever been to a game, seeing a player get hit, and you're like, whoa, he's not coming back into the game, and then 2 seconds later, he's back in the game. But when you get to watch a game from the luxury of your couch from home, it's produced immaculate, right? And you get to see the slow-mo right there, like, oh, his head barely touched the ground. But really, none of that really even matters because it does not take your head being hit to be able to obtain a concussion. I had one of my homies on Twitter in a back and forth debate with somebody in one of my threads. And he was saying, try it right now. He was like, jam your chin into your chest right now and feel the throttle that happens and that bit of like wooziness that happens when you slam your chin into your chest. And it does happen. It's not as egregious as a concussion, obviously, but you can at least feel the brain shaking. People think that a concussion is like, boom, you got hit in the head. No, man, it's about the brain shaking in the skull. So it does not take you being hit in the head to have a concussion. These neurologists that are on the sidelines aren't looking at it like that. They are taking precaution. My advice to Giants fans is if you don't want Jackson Dart being taken out the game and ruining the momentum of a drive, then Jackson Dart needs to take less hits. That is not only his responsibility. He needs better protection up front from the offensive line. He needs to slide more. He needs to be able to evade defenders that are coming at him and be able to find a way to not get hit. Do you know that Lamar Jackson has only had 2 concussion evaluations in the entirety of his career? I heard WFAN talking about Patrick Mahomes has only had 7 his entire career, which is kind of interesting because Lamar Jackson is the guy that's always running the ball. Lamar Jackson is the guy that has had over 110 rushing attempts every year except 2025. So he's the guy that would technically be in harm's way more than any other quarterback. But he runs so smart. He knows when to get down. He knows when to get low when he's running. He knows when to get out of bounds. He knows when to get rid of the football. He understands his own capabilities and his own physical asset, and he knows how to use that to not allow defenders to crush him. Now, this one with Jackson Dart, there's nothing that he could have fucking did, right? Jackson Dart, it's front side, but it's basically a blind side hit because, and I don't know why this was, but if you look at Jackson Dart's feet on the play, they're angled over to the left side of the field. He must have just knew that there was a one read that he was going to right away because he never lined up dead down the line to look the safety off or nothing like that. His feet were angled about 45 degrees to the left sideline, and he just never sees it coming. It reminds me of a hit that happened to Daniel Jones back in the day where he never saw it. It's rare that a quarterback just doesn't see a blind or a front side hit like that, and it turns into blind side. But he's looking this way, and he gets the hit this way. It's very puzzling. But at the end of the day, you just need better protection. Jackson Dart needs to protect himself better. And our running backs can't whiff on blocks. This is the part that I want to break down for y'all. The Giants are going to be a team predicated on the run. Just as much as defensively, as Dorgunner was saying, the Giants got to stop the run first. On the offensive side of the ball, the Giants got to establish the run first, and then everything else will be easier for them. If you can establish the run, teams are going to have to make a decision on stacking the box or playing shit safe with Malik Neighbors and hopefully, in my guess, Malachi Fields on the other side. And listen, I will live and die with Malachi Fields having a one-on-one matchup every damn play. I don't care if we don't catch 75% of them. That's a high percentage of success type of play if we're going one-on-one to a guy who was known for catching 50-50 balls in college. And I know the percentage was right around 50%. It ain't nothing crazy, but it's good enough to be able to make plays, and we saw it on display in this preseason game. So the Giants are going to RTDB. They're going to run the ball, y'all. And they're going to do that with the quarterback. And I know Jackson Dart is not Lamar Jackson. I get that. I made a comparison to him about a couple of months back saying Jackson Dart's got to find a way to protect himself like Lamar Jackson did. And people were like, why are you comparing him to Lamar Jackson, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? All the concussion evaluations are blown out of proportion. They're not. Player safety now is more egregious than it once was. Like, I had a fan tell me, well, oh, how come they didn't take Eli Manning out of the NFC championship game against the 49ers when he was getting his head smacked in? That was 15 years ago, man. The game and the rules have changed. This is a much more safer game. You look at the hits that were happening 15 years ago, players were getting their blocks knocked off, okay? It's different. He needs to learn from Lamar Jackson in the asset of just being able to get down, get out of bounds, get out of harm's way. And that's a different issue than what we saw in Saturday's preseason game. But we're going to run the ball, and that's the part where Jackson Dart has to protect himself. The Ravens have finished in the top 3 in rushing every year, every single year since 2019. Lamar Jackson was the Ravens' leading rusher every single season before Derrick Henry got there. From 2019 to 2023, Lamar Jackson led the Baltimore Ravens in rushing. I don't think Jackson Dart is going to lead the New York Giants in rushing, but it just goes to show you the philosophy behind what John Harbaugh likes to do. And a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans didn't like that. They thought Harbaugh was running Lamar Jackson into the ground. And then you add Roman into the equation, and it's going to make things even more run dominant. And I think if the New York Giants want to have success in 2026, they're going to have to run the damn ball. It's important. You see a lot of fans that talk about it's about the logo on the helmet, not the last name on the back of the jersey. And if you've been following what we do over here on Authentic in the Beard, I've brought this up a ton. That, yeah, it's about the logo. I'm a New York Giants fan through and through. But there is no army without the soldiers. Protect the soldiers. This would be basically like saying, man, we don't give a damn what happens to the soldiers when they're out there. Just go out there and win the war. And big shout out to the people who serve. That might feel like making a comparison of football to war is a little bit egregious. And I mean no disrespect by that at all. But you just have to understand that the NFL has these neurologists and these neurotrauma consultants on the sidelines at every game. I'm not here to tell them how to do their fucking job. If they think that a player needs to go to the blue tent and they are taking precaution, I'm okay with it. Because these same fans, they will be the same people that will be saying prayers up and RIP when shit truly hits the fan a couple of decades later, when shit gets really real. And we don't want to wait till then. That's why the NFL has implemented a player safety program to try to protect not only quarterbacks, but all players on the field. I thought that Dominique Foxworth broke this down so perfect. And Dominique Foxworth really made me realize that we're having a conversation that is an adult conversation versus a conversation with people that aren't adults. Check this out from the Get Up this morning. Dominique Foxworth broke this down. I thought that this was the most eloquent way to describe what happened to Jackson Dart on Sunday.
Okay, I get it from his perspective because he's a player and I understand it, but I just don't want anyone else to be watching this and thinking that what the concussion spotter did right there was wrong.
Right.
It was the most obvious thing to do right there if your responsibility is to spot potential risky concussions. You have a star quarterback in a preseason game who has a history of getting hit in the head. The worst thing you can do as a concussion spotter is be like, I don't think that is it. No, you went down, you stayed for a full count. Get your ass in the tent.
I cannot agree anymore with what he just said. I agree with that 50,000%. And a buddy of mine on Twitter, Steve Del Pome, he said, in arguing back and forth with people in that thread that I had posted, he was basically saying, it's hard for me to think that being cautious with the brain is incorrect. And I think that's just the way to look at it. You can be mad about these blue tent visits all you want, but these people are just trying to do their job. Jackson Dart commented on it as well. He said, I really respect the rules and the thought behind the NFL in keeping players healthy, but at the same time, I'm still puzzled by just feeling like every time I get hit, I find my way in there, which at times I'm trying to wrap my head around. Now, I can't sit up here and tell you that there weren't times where Jackson Dart last year went to go get a concussion evaluation, and I was like, that's puzzling. But this particular one that happened on Saturday, there was nothing puzzling about it. He was laid out on the floor for 3 seconds. His whole entire head went from here to whipping all the way back before he hit the ground. And even though the head didn't hit the ground, that is a reasonable enough situation to be able to go, hey, check this guy out for one play. And we got fans complaining about that. Dart missed one play. He came back into the game and he threw a beautiful strike to Malachi Fields in the back of the end zone, which earlier I told you guys was probably the best throw that I saw of the entire weekend. It was just a beautiful, solid throw. And this was John Harbaugh speaking about it. And I just love what John Harbaugh harped on as far as the red zone threat and how to be able to utilize guys like this in the back of the end zone. And I think this is going to pay dividends for the New York Giants as well.
I think what you're asking is that, that the value of a contested catch, big contested catch receiver in the red zone, right? And that's really what that is. I mean, that's one of the reasons we draft him. That's what Malachi, one of the things he does exceptionally well. He's getting better at so many things, but I mean, that's a heck of a play. I mean, that's a play by that. Most Reds, I will say, argue, I'm not sure the stats exactly. Most red zone touchdown passes are not on time. Most red zone touchdown passes are extended and or plus scrambles. And that's, you got a quarterback who can move around and find a guy. You got a guy who can make a play. That's how you score a lot of those touchdowns. So that was good to see.
Love that. And the Giants last season were not, especially with Jackson Dart, not terrible in the red zone. There were some deficiencies, obviously. I think this year we're going to be much improved in the red zone. Isaiah Likely is going to absolutely be a red zone threat. Bringing back Malik Neighbors, clearly going to help out this team. And Malachi Fields is a big body threat like that. The new version of Plaxico Burress, according to a lot of New York Giants fans. I'm looking forward to seeing, his development in this league, and hopefully he can become a contributor in the regular season for us as well. But before we get off into talking about these pass catchers, I do want to see how you guys feel in the chat about that Jackson Dart long-winded rant there. Honestly, it's starting to piss me off a little bit. I got to keep it real with y'all. It's like, I just see all these people like, you're ruining the momentum of drives and all these silly complaints, but they're not putting the player safety first. And I think it is important to put the player safety first. If you see him take a hit like that, it's rare that you see quarterbacks even take hits that big. It's very rare. Like, I can't even think of a play where Peyton Manning got hit like that. The only play I can think about where Tom Brady got hit like that, it was in the Super Bowl when they were trying to score on the final drive after the New York Giants had taken the lead. And I forget who it was, but straight up caught him in the gut when he was trying to step up into the pocket. And obviously back then they didn't bring him into the tent because it was a different game back then, more violent. And, with the recent deaths of players, man, that they clearly have studied their brain and have found that these guys had CTE. You have to be cautious. You have to be better. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. Let me see what everybody in the chat was talking about. I see Trisha says the ads are annoying. I don't know why YouTube did that recently on lives. I think they used to not do ads on the lives, but now they are splitting them up in the lives and then they pop up. I put our channel on balanced. Maybe I'll put it on minimal because y'all know I'm here to serve the community. I'm not here to make any money off this shit or nothing like that. I'm here to just try to bring value to the community that people don't bring to the community. And that's not to say that people aren't bringing value to the community. There's a ton of people bringing value. I just look for my lane. So we'll try to correct the ad stuff so that doesn't happen during the live streams. Let's see what else. I wish I could cut it live, but it would just be too much. I Am Jarrell says Lamar has been a superior runner his whole life. He knows how to not get hit, just like Mike Vick. Yeah, I can't even think of a time where Mike Vick took a big hit, especially in the early portion of his career when he was really, really running before he got with Andy Reid and whatnot. So I totally agree with you on that. All right. I saw a pause in the chat that got me laughing there one time. Shout out to my dog, Jaji05 in the building. He says, yo, Authentic, what's up, good brother? So glad to see you back. And all good 100. Yeah, man, it's good to be back, man, and appreciate you being here with us today. I Am Jarrell says, no tent back then. Eli was bleeding from his hairline, and they just said, he's tough as nails. I know, bro. Chin strap over his mouth, face mask above his nose. Yeah, Eli was tough as nails, man. Got to respect his performance in the NFC Championship game. It was a beautiful thing. Let's see. Deaton Shelton said the NFL is trying to avoid another lawsuit. Concussion with Will Smith is based on facts. CTE is a serious issue. I totally agree with you on that. No Cap in my rack says, finally a good take from Get Up. Yeah, that was a good one. Like Dominic Foxworth, he's from the area too, man. Big shout out to him. I thought, Dan Orlovsky was trying to give him a little bit of pushback, and he basically was just like, let me take the floor and speak real quick and be the adult in the room. And I love that, man. The Trashman 72 is in the building. He says they have neurologists that miss Dart getting knocked unconscious in Chicago. I just have a hard time buying that he needs to go into the tent as much as he does. Do you do your job perfectly? Because I know I'm damn good at my job. I can mix the shit out of some records. But listen, I make mistakes doing my job as well. We cannot expect the process of humans doing their job, especially in football, to be perfect. We already have seen that with the referees, man. They mess up all the time, and things get swept under the rug and become undiagnosed. And that tends to happen. I mean, we've seen people take big shots. I remember it happened with Josh Allen just last year. He took a huge shot and somehow they didn't bring him to the blue tent. I was like, are y'all not seeing it? His head just smacked the entire turf. I don't expect people to do their jobs perfect. Shit, I just went and got a steak and cheese from the sub shop the other day. I pull up to the counter. I'm like, hey, I'm here for this order. Got the 2 steak and cheeses, one for me and my girl. Dude's like, hey, yeah, it'll be ready in 1 minute. I'm sitting there for 25 minutes. I'm like, bro, what's going on? He looks over to his right. The bag with my 2 steak and cheeses is already right there. He slides them over and grabs them. I'm like, bro, you trying to tell me they was there the whole time? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Now, that dude clearly don't do his job as good as I do, but everybody's going to make mistakes on the job. It just happens. Human error is a thing. It's definitely a thing. We're not AI bots, and even AI bots make errors, right? Trashman also said, but during the preseason game, he definitely needed to get checked out. I just love how the community that we have built here is a sound, rational type of community. It's like, yeah, I agree with you, Trashman, that it's like, hey, some of those were like, dang, like that didn't look too bad last year. Why is he getting checked out? But siding, on the side of caution is better than having him go out there and maybe something even worse could happen. So I like that take from you, Trash Man. That's a good one. Shout out to Illa. He says, Authentic, do you think the athletic quarterback could be the very thing that causes the NFL to crumble? That's a great topic, bro. He said, because they take far more violent hits than a pocket passer, considering their stance on CTE. Now, look, the last part of your statement there, though, when you look at Lamar Jackson, who is the best runner in the league, I guess, he's only been evaluated for 2 concussions his entire career. I think he's had 1 concussion. So, it could be, but I think that's something that we got to do some research on. And Illa, I'd be willing to maybe have a conversation about that with you live, because that's your topic. I think that's a great topic. Like, could the athletic quarterback be the thing that makes the NFL crumble as far as how the rules are played and how cautious they are as far as the hits that are being applied out there? Chris P said Jay Alford hit Brady. Yeah, that's who that was. I remember it was somebody that wasn't one of the staples on the line. Caught him right in the gut trying to step up and launch the ball downfield to Randy Moss. I know every New York Giants fan during that Super Bowl that was watching that Super Bowl was scared shitless with Randy Moss running 80 yards down the field trying to catch those bombs, man. It looked like they were going to make a play. It really did. And I thought I think that was the one where Wes Welker dropped it on 3rd down. It was on his back shoulder. The pass was a little bit inaccurate. It was really the difference in that game, man. And, I'm blessed and grateful to the football gods that we were able to get those Super Bowls, man. Like, those were basically, for me, out of nowhere. I was always a big supporter of Eli Manning when most of the New York Giants fan base was giving him a lot of shit after the first couple years. But I'd be sitting up here lying if I were to say, yeah, I knew Eli Manning was going to go out there and win a Super Bowl within his first 5 years in the NFL. I never thought that was going to be a thing, but I'm grateful that it happened. Sully says, I disagree. Quarterbacks used to get hit like that all the time. That's why Tony Romo's back is broken. Well, it depends on what are you disagreeing on, because, like, look at Brett Favre. The dude barely knows his fucking name. Look at Troy Aikman and look at how his career came to an end because of those concussions, right? Look at guys who took hits that it wasn't even necessarily just a concussion. Cam Newton's career completely got derailed off a blindside hit. Whether you agree with it or not, Sully, they're trying to protect the players. That is the goal, and those are the rules. It's like me disagreeing with pass interference in the NFL. It's the rules, and they're trying to implement those rules. So, I'm going to support them implementing those rules, because there's evidence that these concussions are leading to players taking their lives, man. And you don't want to be one of those people that's like, yeah, prayers up, man, all that shit later. You don't, when it's too late. I can't say you. I'm going to say me. I don't want to be one of those people, to be honest. Remy Rum says he should have took himself out of the game, to be honest. Like, everyone is saying it's preseason. Why put yourself back in there for no reason? Yeah, and then he's all eager to get back on the field. I get it. You're a young player. And when I played ball, I was like that too. Like, I remember this one time, my junior year, we were playing Walter Johnson. And back in my day, this was in 1999, there wasn't a lot of passing. That was 99, right? It was 90. Yeah, it was 99. We didn't pass the ball that much. And my team had the Maryland State rusher, the leading Maryland State rusher on my team. He rushed for 2,000 yards twice. So we didn't pass the ball much. I ended up getting a bubble screen late in the game. Caught the ball, tried to shake and try to get a couple more yards. The dude like whipped me down and he tackled me like with my shoulders and my head first. Yo, no doubt about it, I was concussed. I walked back to the huddle with the biggest chunk of grass in my face mask. Nobody said shit. Nobody was like, get him off the field or nothing. I could barely fucking see, man. And I played the rest of that game and I did not feel good, man. I did not feel good. So those are the things that like, the player is not going to want to take himself out. And sometimes you got to be the person that protects the player. And that goes on the coaches. That goes on the medical staff. That goes on those neurologists that are on the sideline. No cap in my rack said, nah, fam, get your money. We can deal with them ads. I hear you, bro. I know there's tiers to it, so I'm going to limit it next time, man. And, we have enough people that support this channel with the super chats where I don't think we have to be pressed about the AdSense. StreamYard is now automatically checking the monetization box when we start the stream. And I just got to go in and just check that so y'all can have a more enjoyable experience. And it's no problem for me to do that. Hyphen Wade said, I don't think that's going to be the cause of a period. I don't know what you mean by that. He says, I think that needs to be addressed nonetheless. Crumble, that's a bit harsh. Maybe he's talking to somebody else in the chat. Shout out Tree Squirrel in the building, says the majority of fans are dumb as fuck. They know nothing about football. The preseason means nothing besides getting the reps they need. Go watch at how many teams win all the preseason games, but then go 3, or I guess he's saying then just get like 3 wins. Yeah, there's one anomaly to that though, right? And it's the Baltimore Ravens who won like 26 consecutive preseason games, and then like they go out there every year and they ball out. Now, I hope we can do that, but you're right. The Giants won all 3 preseason games last year, and then went out there in the regular season and won 4 games. Shit don't matter. I'm with you. I want to see the reps. JDJ says, gotta just accept that this is how it is. At this point, I'm going to need Nagy to consider calling games from the blue tent. I know, right? Put the blue tent on the fucking field because Jackson Dart it's inevitable. He goes there basically every other game, man. It's kind of crazy. Mally Mal says, it's ridiculous how our offensive line and blocking in general has been trash for years. Yeah, they got to get that fixed, man. And last year was better. I thought last year was, it was a step in the right direction for sure. And Tree Squirrel said the same thing. Yeah, if you watched it last year, last year's offensive line was pretty good. Timmy Foosball in the building one time. What's going on, my dog? He says, Authentic is back talking Giants football. Life is good again. That makes me feel good, bro. I'm glad you enjoy the show. He says, life will get even better when I thrash him. And I think we're talking a little bit of FC here. I'm waiting on you, bro. And if you've been, every now and again, you could check the Xbox app. I be posting some of the highlights, bro. I'm filthy. I'm filthy on FC. So anybody that want that smoke on that FC, I ain't get the new one yet. We still on the 26th. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. But if you want that smoke, yeah, find me on what is it? Xbox Live. Find me on Xbox Live. Yeah. We gonna get there, bro. We gonna get there. Both of our nations were in the World Cup this year, man. Shout out to England. Shout out to Haiti, bro. You know what it is. Trisha said, Lord. Probably talking about them ads. OKC Donald says, Reese going to be a standout. Glad the Giants took linebacker serious. And Arvell will be an edge soon as well. Love his skill set. Yeah, I think he'll be a guy that even this year you'll see they're going to utilize him, a little bit as far as an edge rusher. I think you'll see a few snaps there as well. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets says, was this Jersey Mike's? Nah, but I do be catching that Jersey Mike's right there on 29. I ain't been there in a minute. That shit all right. It's definitely all right. This was, what's the joint called? Nas. It's like a halal joint. And yeah, they food was all right. It was all right, but yeah, they definitely fucked up my order. Let's see what else we got before we get off into these wide receivers, see if there's anything good. No Cap says, do you think Jackson Dart will win a Super Bowl in his first 5 years? I'm going to say no. Like, if I had to bet some money on it, I wouldn't bet money that Dart's going to win a Super Bowl. But I do think that the Giants are going to get to be in position to compete here within 5 years, for sure. For sure. Trisha talking about, right, how Cam was forced to retire. Yeah, that shoulder injury really ruined his ability to throw, and that was never his thing. He was more of a balanced type of quarterback that could run and throw it pretty decent, but like he always had velocity. He always had heat. Cam could throw that fastball. That's for sure. Let me see. Somebody was talking about hockey. Okay, Sully said in hockey they end your career if you have too many concussions. Word, I did not know that. I did not know that. That supports this even more. I'm not sure of the frequency of concussions in hockey, but I'm sure that, they got a good amount of them. Soccer as well. A lot of people get concussed in soccer as well. I remember at one point soccer had more concussions than football did. But that's good to know. Deedon said, I'm not getting any ads. You're probably paying for that YouTube premium. Tricia said, I like that story time. We need more of that. I like hearing y'all football history. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I was telling my girl, like, the older I get, right, like my details of Giants football history, they get a little vaguer because I'm getting up there. I'm 43. But I was watching Bad Dog last night, man. And Bad Dog is a guy that, like, he's not going to be, like, looking at all the tape the way I do, right? He's a busy dude. But when it comes to, like, his football knowledge of the New York Giants, like, what he remembers, it's so impressive how much he can remember about the New York Giants. And I remember a good bit, but, like, Bad Dog got that shit in his mind like it's a Rolodex. And we chatted yesterday about clicking up and doing a feature, possibly on his channel or on my channel, maybe on both. We'll see how that goes. But definitely respect what Bad Dog and Entertainer are doing, especially on the play-by-play vibes, man. They've been putting their foot in that for a long time. That really got me into the New York Giants community, was watching Entertainer back in the day in his apartment back in the day in like 2017, 2018 or something like that. I used to watch Tainer and Bad Dog. They both do a great job. And if y'all not familiar, go check them out for sure. Josh says, think of it from this perspective, from any of us. If Dart was our son and you saw him take a big hit, then lay on the ground for, I'm going to say 3 seconds because it was 3 seconds, you wouldn't want him to get checked out? Come on. That's why I introduced that topic as we're talking about a conversation with adults versus a conversation without adults. I get the young, reckless nature of a teenager, of somebody even in their 20s, right? Mind not even developed all the way yet. Still got that high school mentality and thinking. I get it. But at the end of the day, man, you got to protect these players. And if that's the goal, do it well. Don't do it half-assed. Do it well. That's my thoughts on that. Let me see. No Cap said, Authentic is 43. What the hell am I thinking? You look like you 30, Unc. Yeah, man. It's I went and saw a couple of homies. I filmed an event. Shout out to my dog Titsworth. He came into town, man. They were basically like the creators of the Moombahton genre. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but they came into town. I went out with the camera, filmed, and I saw them. And I haven't stepped out in like that scene in a long time. And as soon as I saw him, he was like, man, you're drinking from the fountain of youth, bro. I'm like, I ain't doing nothing crazy, bro. I eat a ton of fast food. Like, I don't eat healthy. I drink a lot of soda, a lot of Powerade, Gatorade, shit like that. But, I got some grays coming in here. It's getting there. I want the transition. I just want to get to it. Like, I want to just get into my, like, angry old man senior citizen vibes. We'll get there, I'm sure, in the next 4 years it's going to happen. It's all going to turn gray, and I'm just going to get old. I still got some hair. I'm still doing all right, but we'll see. Trisha said, yeah, that's facts. Bad Dog is #1 family member, New York Giants. I would love to see a lot of my NYG on one podcast together one day. Y'all, Big Dash, Bobby. Absolutely. I support all them dudes because to me, that's the like cream of the crop when we talk about Giants content. Like, I'm entertained when I watch their shows, and you can tell that their shows are very well thought, like especially Bobby and Big Dash, man. Like, they're thinking of the concepts, they're thinking of the topics, they're putting in high production value, and they care about what they do. And I'm the same way. Like, I'm not going to come up here and just wing a stream. Like, during the lull that we had over here on Authentic and the Beard, I was thinking about just coming up and just doing like Q&As and doing, just like unprepared shit. It just don't sit well with me. Like, I come from the live performance culture, being a artist, musician, producer, all of that. I had my own band and all that. So like, we just never did shit half-assed, and we're always trying to raise the bar. That's just kind of how I operate. So we'll continue to do that over here, and it's nice to see the New York Giants community flourish. When we first got in this, there was probably like, I would say a grand total of like 25 of us. 30 of us maybe. And now there's like 500 of us. Like, there's so many people doing Giants content, and that's good. I encourage people to go out there and do as much content as you possibly can. I don't look at it as competition. I'm in competition with myself, to be honest. But let's go ahead and talk about these pass catchers just a little bit, man. We'll start with Malachi Fields. The dude just like over impressed me. I thought it was going to be a slow game for Malachi Fields, and I didn't think he was going to do that much. He didn't do a ton of work, but what he did was very effective. 3 targets, no drops by the New York Giants, basically the whole room. I love that. Y'all know how them drops go. Didn't target Darius Slayton, though, so got to take that with a grain of salt. But 3 targets for Malachi Fields, 3 receptions, 34 yards, 1 touchdown. He had the highest PFF grade of any New York Giant. What I loved is that when Jackson Dart hit him on the 2 other plays, the ball was not as accurate. One of them was low in the ground, and Malachi Fields found a way to showcase the strong hands and make the play. Love what I'm seeing out of him. Want to see him to continue to develop. Y'all know Malachi Fields was a guy that was, I want to say, he was right outside of my top 10. He was my number 11 wide receiver in the honorable mention category. I even have tweets where I said that Malachi Fields is a guy that could be a New York Giant here, could be a second-round target for the New York Giants. I knew that he would be that body type that we were looking for, and as sure as shit stinks, they went out there and they drafted Malachi Fields, and I was happy with that. My co-host, The Beard, is a Notre Dame fan, so was very hip to Malachi already. Beard gave me the stamp of approval. When I looked at Malachi's tape, there were some things that I thought, he needed to clean up and improve with the 50-50 receptions. I thought at times Malachi Fields lost his leverage a lot, and that's why his 50-50 percentage was a little bit lower than some of the guys way up there in this class, like Eric McAllister, who was up there. Carnell Tate was at the top of this class as far as contested catches go. And, I just thought that Malachi Fields needed to work on the balance, and I do think he's getting better at that. Love that he showcased those strong hands, and at times you want your quarterback, especially in a preseason game, to be a little bit inaccurate so that you can see what your wide receivers got. But the thing that I'm struggling with here with a big body wide receiver who does not operate really off speed and is more of a possession guy that can win on the sideline with the 50-50 catches is Malachi Fields, more T. Higgins, or is he more little Jordan Humphrey? Or is he somewhere in between? And when I say little Jordan Humphrey, that's no shade towards Malachi. That's no shade towards little Jordan Humphrey. I'm a fan of little Jordan Humphrey. Little Jordan Humphrey came out last preseason and had 2 receptions in Jackson Dart's debut and had 36 yards and a touchdown as well. And Dart finished that game looking immaculate with 154 yards and 1 touchdown. He was 12-19. That game was against Buffalo in 2025. But little Jordan Humphrey didn't even make the initial 53-man roster. And when all said and done, he finished the year with just 10 targets with the New York Giants, 4 receptions for 55 yards, and then he ended up getting picked up by the Denver Broncos, and I think that's where he's still at today. So take the preseason with a grain of salt. I know that's what I'm going to do. I saw Zach Wilson go out there in the preseason and put together a hell of a performance. That doesn't mean that I'm thinking Zach Wilson's going to go out here and be, the next coming of Patrick Mahomes. Absolutely not. Love what I saw from Isaiah Likely. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards. Both of his receptions were for first downs on third down. That is, love that right there. He only played 6 total snaps. It was a good outing for Isaiah Likely, who I think is going to be one of those guys that's going to be a main contributor for the New York Giants passing, wide receiver core and just passing game in general outside of Malik Neighbors. And I'm looking forward to seeing Isaiah Likely. And I think that's why they only played him for 6 snaps in this game. Darius Slayton, super quiet. He played 16 snaps. You really wouldn't even know it. It was almost like he wasn't out there on the field. Only on the field for 4 pass plays. And of those 4 pass plays, 2 of those plays were screens. One of those was a clear out route where he wasn't even a guy who was really in the progression of the play. And then the other one was on the Malachi Fields touchdown, which was the only route that I saw Darius Slayton run basically like full speed. It almost looked like he was banged up or a little bit uninterested, And same goes for Darnell Mooney. No targets, no receptions, out there for 15 snaps, 4 pass plays, 1 screen, had a backside dig where he got open, but he was last in the progression, didn't get the ball. Another one was a screen play. And then another one was on one of Isaiah Likely's first down conversions or third down conversions, where he ran like a kind of a settle route where he just sat down in the zone, very similar to how Isaiah Likely did, but Darnell Mooney wasn't targeted. Calvin Austin looked shifty with his route running, but no targets, 12 snaps, 5 passing plays. He is as small as Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know why that was a shocker for me. It's like, it's interesting because they say when you're bigger, you should wear all black. But when I would see Calvin Austin in all black with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know. He didn't look as small as Wan'Dale Robinson does on the field, but he definitely looked small on the field. He was getting open. He looked shifty. I was a fan of it. Devin Singletary basically had the biggest reception of the day outside of the touchdown from Malachi Fields. He had the 1 reception for 40 yards. That dude was running slower than when you got to look up like this, like you're running from the police, high kneeing because you don't got the speed. That's how Devin Singletary was running on that play. And I thought the Minnesota Vikings took very poor angles on that play. When you see it from the All-22, it's like, How'd y'all even let that happen? It's one of those plays that I was kind of mad at that we got because I don't like fluke fugazi shit when I'm watching a game. But it did allow Jackson Dart to come back in the game and, have the big play to Malachi Fields. So I really can't complain about it too much. OBJ looked at every one of his snaps multiple times. First of all, man, I don't know if I can't say alone on this because I know a lot of Giants fans, but I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority. It is so fantastic seeing Odell Beckham Jr. on this team. Like, I just love having a player like that in our locker room. And being that he went to LSU, being that he can be that mentor to Malik Neighbors, it just makes me that much more happy. He was out there for 16 snaps. He had 3 targets, 2 receptions for 6 yards. The one target that he didn't catch was just a blatant, terrible throw from Brandon Allen where Beckham was open. And he was going across the middle on a quick slant, and the window closed extremely small. Hey, kitty, my cat just walked in here. And the window closed extremely fast. And interception by the Vikings. Nothing Odell could do about that. But when you look at the routes, man, Odell was open. Odell was open on basically every one of his routes that he ran in this game. There was one where a lot of New York Giants fans were, I thought, making a bit of a big deal about it. Both my cats came down here. But, you can see that Brandon Allen, in the progression, Odell Beckham's the first one, 2 fades on the outside. Odell Beckham is first in the progression. He catches the snap. He's looking right at Odell Beckham. Safety's over the top. He looks away from Odell Beckham, and he decides to throw the ball to the fade on the left side. Ball ends up getting intercepted. I thought that the Minnesota Vikings did a good job of disguising the coverage. But Odell Beckham did get behind the defender, but I wouldn't say, oh, man, he was wide open because the safety was standing there. And listen, I don't want to see Odell Beckham coming back from all those injuries, playing as well as he was, go out there and get mollywopped by a safety, and we got to deal with Odell Beckham being on the sideline before he even gets a chance to make this team. I think that would be unfair to all the New York Giants fans that are extremely happy, and it would more importantly be unfair to Odell Beckham. I see El Scorcho is saying, what number is OBJ wearing? Right now, he's doubling up wearing number 3 with Abdul Carter, but I think if he does end up making this team, it'll probably be over Jalen Hyatt, and we'll see Odell Beckham get that 13 back, and that'll be amazing because that first game at MetLife, when you see that stadium full of all those old-ass Odell Beckham Jr. jerseys from way back in the day, that's going to be a beautiful thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think it's a good time to use Odell Beckham Jr. as one of the overreactions here, and we were talking about Bad Dog a good bit, and I wanted to fuse 2 of Bad Dog's tweets into one giant overreaction. And this is going to be a good way for us to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. a little bit more. And I hope y'all are as excited as I am to have Odell Beckham Jr. here, not because Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be, what he was in the prime of his career, but it's just, I like the underdog story. And I think that Odell Beckham is a guy that was written off, right? And I want to see Odell Beckham Jr. go out here and be able to get over that hump and succeed with the New York Giants. I was devastated when Dave Gettleman traded Odell Beckham Jr. I thought we had a nice little core that we were developing around that time, around Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr. And 2018 was not good from a win standpoint for the New York Giants, but man, I had a lot of fun in 2018, like running reverse passes with Odell to Saquon and doing all this in the end zone. We had some playmakers on that offense, and since then, the offense has not really moved quite the same. And really a lot of our deficiencies that year were with the defense. I believe that was Betcher that was the defensive coordinator in 2018, and we just struggled defensively in a major way that year. So let's get off into this next and last giant overreaction. We're doing pretty good time for as long as we haven't streamed. 2 hours, not too bad. We'll set the over-under at about 2 hours and 35 minutes to play it safe here. But let's get off into this last giant overreaction of the day. All right, now this one comes from Bad Dog, like I said, one of our favorite New York Giants content creators. He said, OBJ is going to make this team, and don't be surprised if Malachi Fields is wide receiver 2 by midseason. Now, y'all tell me in the chat if you think this is an overreaction and you don't agree with it, put an O in the chat and tell me why. And if you do agree with it, put a U in the chat to represent you taking the under and tell me why as well. And if you, don't want to talk the Odell Beckham stuff yet, you need to see a little bit more, go ahead and put the P in the chat to represent that you are taking the push. I want to start with the Malachi Fields portion of this. And I do think that Malachi Fields could be wide receiver 2 by midseason. But think about this. A third-round rookie wide receiver 2 speaks volumes to how poor the New York Giants wide receiver core actually is. And you have Malik Neighbors, and then you have a bunch of other guys that really are all fighting for wide receiver 2. They're all wide receiver 2s and 3s and 4s. When you look at Slayton, when you look at Mooney, when you look at Austin, who is predominantly more in the slot. But all of these guys, when you look at them from a productivity standpoint, like it wouldn't surprise me if any of them were like a 500-yard wide receiver. Slayton, Mooney, Odell, or under, to be honest. So it just shows you that this wide receiver room needs help drastically. And that's why they drafted Malachi Fields, right? So I think that's okay, that if he does become the wide receiver 2 midseason, I'm okay with that. I love his skill set. Big, strong, and I think he's starting to show you that he's a reliable wide receiver. If you get that ball near him with the length of his catch radius, he's showing you what he can do. And again, I really like the red zone possibilities of adding Malachi Fields and also just some of the early down passing situations that we'll be in where, let's say it's like 2nd and 3 and you got an opportunity to take a shot down the field when teams are stacking the box thinking you're going to run the ball with Cam Scadaboo, who saw a lot of stacked boxes on Saturday against the Vikings as well. Every one of Cam Scadaboo's runs had at least 7 men in the box on Saturday against the Minnesota Vikings. If that's the case, imagine seeing 7 and 8 guys in the box and you got Malachi Fields and Malik Neighbors on the outside. Like I said, that's going to be a win-win for us in the red zone and also when we're trying to stretch the field and get into position. We need those explosive plays. Y'all know I talked about this a ton last year. Having just one explosive play in a single drive, you are 10 times more likely for that drive to end in a touchdown. So we need more explosives, and you need to get those players that are going to create those explosives. I don't look at Cam Scadaboo as an explosive play waiting to happen. It's not to say that he can't make explosive plays, but I just don't look at him as a player that's going to like break off a 20, 30, 40-yard run. But when you look at guys like Malachi Fields and when you look at guys like Malik Neighbors and when you look at guys like Isaiah Likely, I think those are the guys that are going to be able to create some of those explosives. Now, when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr., listen, the speed surprised me. The route running is crispy, and it also surprised me. He looks healthy. His speed looks really good out there. He blew past the defensive back. That was Dwight McGlothern Jr., who ran a 4.4 at the combine. That's not blazing speed, but OBJ is showing you that if you put an average speed type of corner on him in the NFL, he's going to be able to get over the top. And that's what we need, because that's what's going to set up Odell Beckham to do what he does best, which is that quick slant. I don't know if he's going to be able to take it to the house like he used to back in the day, but I think Odell can be a contributor. I think he has a great chance of making this team because of his history with John Harbaugh when he played with the Baltimore Ravens, where he basically put up Darius Slayton-like numbers that year as well. His past with the Giants, that's going to influence everyone in management with the New York Giants. Because why? It's going to sell fucking tickets. Odell Beckham, you see when he came out, the ovation that he got from the fans. The fans love Odell Beckham. The kids love Odell Beckham. And the kids from back then that have grown up now to be in their early 20s, their 30s and whatnot, they all loved Odell Beckham. Those were the guys that were dyeing their hair blonde and doing the faux hawk and doing all that stuff. So that's going to influence the New York Giants as well, if we like it or not. And the vibes, man. Odell and Malik. Think about the warm-ups at the beginning of the game once Odell gets some confidence back, what that's going to look like and what those vibes and what these young boys say, the aura going to look like around the New York Giants wide receiver core. I'm all for it. And as I said earlier, he can be a mentor for Malik Neighbors. Same school, same kind of guy that came into the league with all of that potential and being a guy that was a top 10 wide receiver after year one, right? Odell's been there and done that. He can tell Malik and give Malik the advice and be that mentor. And I know right now Odell's probably playing things a little safe and not trying to be too vocal and just trying to make the team first. But I'm with Bad Dog on this. I don't think this is an overreaction at all. And look, I'm taking the under all damn day on this one. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to make this team as possibly the 6th or 5th wide receiver on this roster. That's how I think it's going to shake out. Now, you see Braxton Berrios, that's going to present an issue because the Giants are going to have a decision to make. Do we want to bring in a guy that's a special teams contributor, or do we want to bring in another wide receiver that might not play a ton, considering the guys that are ahead of him on the staff? But for me, I'm going Odell Beckham Jr. all day long. I'm not looking at the New York Giants as a Super Bowl winning team this year, I think it's important to have those veterans in the locker room. Darius Slayton is one of those guys. Bring another one like Odell Beckham Jr., I think will pay dividends for this wide receiver room. And I'm all for it. Y'all know I'm biased when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. Odell is, I'm going to say, I was going to say my girl's favorite player, but I'm going to say her second favorite player because Brandon Jacobs is her favorite player, no doubt about it. And I think we are exactly 27 days away from the New York Giants opener. So, you know, that's just ironic, but it's going to be great to bring out that old Odell Beckham Jr. jersey out the closet. If he does make this team week 1, I'm looking forward to it. And I just think that relationship with John Harbaugh's trying to disguise it a little bit. But I think when he spoke to the media, there were a couple of things where he kind of let the cat out the bag just a little bit. Take a listen here.
How did Odell look to you, John?
I thought he looked pretty good. You know, he looked pretty good. Made a couple catches. You know, did some things he could have done better. He'll be the first guy to tell you that. You know, but I thought he looked solid. I would say. You know. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. I mean, you know, I love Odell. I do. What he's doing, what he's fighting for. You know, I don't know how it's going to turn out. It's going to turn out the way it turns out, you know, based on what happens. But to see his fight, his determination, his humility, he's got his son in camp the other day, you know, he's doing it for his son. You know, that just, as a friend, you know, that makes me really proud of him.
I just hear an undertone there that's like, Odell's making his team. He said, I don't know how it's going to turn out. It's going to turn out the way it's going to turn out. That sounds like a man is kind of overthinking it. And you could just, you sense the love that John Harbaugh has for Odell Beckham and the plight that he's going through right now, right? It's not easy to get back in this league when people write you off, man. We've seen it with countless players where they go to a team, there's still a little bit of productivity, but for some reason, nobody wants to sign them. Nobody wants to bring them in. Unfortunately for OBJ last year, he dealt with the PED situation where he couldn't play. So he had to sit out basically the entire season. And this year, he looks healthy. He looks sharp. I'm looking forward to it. I think OBJ is making this team, man. Let's see what the chat is talking about. I'll kind of wheel backwards and see what we got here. No Witnesses 85 says he's taking the under. OBJ has hands. Yeah, that quick slant showed that. He says he also looks like he hasn't lost agility. I agree with you on that. And he was getting open. If that continues for more than one preseason game, that plus the veteran leadership will secure his spot. I do agree with you 100% there, man. 100%. The vibes are too high around Odell Beckham Jr. for him to not make this team. Jay Fed said, nah, Giants selling tickets regardless. Odell not top 6 wide receiver. Jay Fed, I would like to know who your top 6 wide receivers are then. You know, I do think the Giants are going to sell tickets, but look, think about late in the season what MetLife looks like when the New York Giants record has plummeted and they're not going to the playoffs. They're not selling tickets. I know homies that are season ticket holders. They selling their tickets, right? Giants were trying to offer motherfuckers a medium Pepsi to come to games, right? It's not all, you know, unicorns and rainbows, right? So I do think that Odell's going to help sell tickets. I was here in Baltimore when Odell first got here, and I went to their training camp, the first training camp open to the public. When Odell walked out the tunnel, the ovation he got was bigger than Lamar Jackson. Listen, regardless of how Odell plays on the field, that dude is an attraction to fans. People, you know, the nostalgia is still there and all that, man. And for me as well, man. For me as well. And I do think that Odell, I think he is the 6th wide receiver on this team. It's hard to gauge, though, because he hasn't played, you know, in a couple of years, really, because even the previous season with the Miami Dolphins, I mean, he was only out there for like a few reps. I remember cutting up a compilation of all of his routes, and it was only like maybe 30 total routes that entire season. So they didn't view him as a guy that they could bring in. That room was a little bit stacked too. They still had Waddle over there and whatnot. They didn't really have a lot of room to bring in a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. But I think he will help sell tickets. But I'm curious to see what other wide receivers you would put ahead of him, and I'll try to keep an eye out for it here and see if we can kind of discuss that a little bit as well. DeIlla says, "Hey, I have to say what I believe." LOL. DeIlla don't like wide receivers. He hates them. I know it for a fact. I'm just tugging his chain, but the Illa don't fuck with wide receivers. He says, hey, I have to say what I believe. I can't get overhyped over a preseason game where most of this came on off coverage. Keon Coleman was a preseason star as well. Keon Coleman is a contributor for the Buffalo Bills, though. let's just look up Keon Coleman's numbers over the last few years. The problem with Keon Coleman is he's not turning into that star kind of wide receiver that they want over there. That's why they went out there and they got DJ Moore. But Keon Coleman's a contributor. He's a guy that's going to put up, I'm going to guess, like 400 yards a year, maybe 300 to 400 yards a year. Let's see. Which is really not enough when you're the wide receiver too, but if Odell can, okay, yeah. So Keon Coleman put up 556 yards in 2024 and 4 touchdowns. And then he put up 404 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2025. Those are Darius Slayton numbers with more touchdowns. Do you not want that on our team? I'll take that. I will take those numbers all day long. I would take Keon Coleman on this team right now, and Keon Coleman could come in and be wide receiver 2 right now, bro. Like, I don't think that's a knock, but I know you have a high threshold for what you want out of wide receivers. We've had a lot of conversations about that, but at the same time, the Giants got to crawl before they walk, man. Jax Loves You says the fans not only want Odell, they need Odell. Yeah, man. We need vibes this year, man. I'm not looking at the Giants like go out there and win 9 games. If it happens, that's cool as shit. But like, this reminds me of 2022 all over again when Brian Dable got here. Like, we didn't expect, I'd predicted the Giants were going to win 6 games in 2022. They went out there and won 9 games and won a playoff game. If that happens, I'm going to be sitting up here rooting my ass off. But like, if we win 5 games, it's not going to surprise me. It's not going to surprise me. There's a lot that has to be kicked out of the New York Giants facility, and the new needs to come in and revamp all that old shit. And we'll get there. We'll get there. The Illa says, it's an overreaction. My content speaks for itself. Malachi to me is a situational player, not an every down player. From the 30 in, get him on the field. Outside of that, I think he limits the offense. I like the situation you brought up, the Illa. I think that's one of the primary, if not the primary situation, right? But like I described earlier, the thing about Malachi Fields that you got to consider is those second down and short distances, because he's going to be on the field as a blocker. He's an incredible blocker because he's a big stature kind of guy. So you can bring him in on the field when you're in predictable, like what looks to be a running situation, him, Isaiah Likely, and try to catch teams slipping with one-on-one coverage and get those plays over the top. So I don't think he's relegated to just one instance where you're in the green zone or knocking on the red zone. I don't think he's relegated to just that. But I am with you that, like, you got to pump the brakes on Malachi Fields. This is a guy that never truly produced in college at a high level. He never produced like a number 1 in college. So it's hard to envision him producing like a number 1 in the NFL. And like I said, I had a lot of wide receivers ahead of him as well. I had a wide receiver that didn't get drafted ahead of him. So that kind of speaks to, at least what I thought about the evaluation on him. But man, I mean, he's off to a good start. And I just want to see him continue to get better, because he's the kind of guy that has that build, man, to be a guy that can be, a major contributor with the New York Giants, the second contributor in that wide receiver room, outside of a guy like Isaiah Likely being another pass catcher as well. Mac, the Giants fan, said he's taking the push. OBJ still has an uphill battle. If he's any lower than 4 on the depth chart, he has to contribute on the specials. Fields is playing himself into that spot, but it may not be ideal realistically. Yeah, I do agree with you on that. And I think Bad Dog worded it really well. Like, don't be surprised if Malachi Fields is wide receiver 2 by midseason. He's not saying he's going to be, but he's saying don't be surprised. And I do respect that, because it's not going to surprise me at all, to be honest. No Met says, the Illa, you can't be overly committed to your predictions. Let the player play. I like that. And honestly, that's why I've kind of like, we used to do predictions, statistical predictions of basically all the players on the New York Giants to enter the season. I've kind of ditched that, because it's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. I predicted Malik Neighbors was going to have like 1,400 yards last year, and then he gets hurt. And it's like, damn, you kind of look like, an idiot after the fact. So I stopped with the predictions. Opportunity is number 1. These guys got to get opportunity to go out there and make those plays. I am looking for Jay Fed's comment on who he thought the 6 wide receivers would be. I think that'd be a good thing to discuss here. Jay Fed did say that Barrios plays special teams, returns kicks, and can catch the same slants Odell catches. I think it's a little bit different. Barrios can catch those slants. Barrios would be more of a slot guy, though. He can't go out there and play the X or the Z. So I do think it's a little bit different where you're catching the slant from. Odell's going to be able to deal with press man coverage better. And that was the one thing I wanted to say to Dilla, too. Dilla saying they were playing off ball or off coverage on him. That wasn't true. There were plenty of times where Odell Beckham had press man coverage, and that shit was not even phasing him, bro. Go back and look at the fade route from Brandon Allen that got intercepted on the left sideline. Go look at Odell on the right. He's press man right up front. The dude don't even get hands on him. There was on the quick slant, he's press man. He doesn't get no hands on him. So I think Odell, like, he surprised me in that regard. You know what I like about Odell, bro? And I feel like he wasn't doing this when he was with the Giants. But do you see his stance at the line now where he has the hands kind of like this as he's about to take off? I like it's just like Arvell Reese's stance. I really like that. And Odell's releases, man. Y'all might be sleeping, bro. Have y'all looked at the compilation of all the routes? I'll probably post it when we get off the stream, just so everybody in our community can check it out. But man, Odell's releases look good. Look good. Chris P says, I just want my wide receivers to catch a ball when it hits their hands. Is that too much to ask? It's not, bro. It's not, man. It's not. Trisha says, I want to get to our Corbin not looking at the Super Bowl. We need to win games again. I think the Corbin part's a typo, but yeah, like, just want to get back to our identity, building the identity, establishing the identity. And then once we compete, then you can say, all right, let's go for a Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles did it extremely well. They found their quarterback in Jalen Hurts. They didn't have the weapons around him his first year. They had drafted a rookie wide receiver in Devonta Smith. And then they realized, hey, we got a guy that we think we can win around. Let's put everything around him. Most Giants fans like to act like Jalen Hurts his entire career has had like the perennial weapons on the outside, but they forget about that first year. He proved it that first year, and I think they won 8 games or 9 games. He started off his career with back-to-back 300-yard passing games, and they're like, we got to build around this dude. They'll build around him until he becomes a problem, and then they'll move on to the next quarterback. And that's where the Giants need to get, establishing the identity, building the infrastructure that knows how to identify the right players, bring them into that infrastructure, and build them into great players. That's what we've been missing for over a decade. We do not know how to develop the talent that we have. And I do blame a lot of the bust that we have had in, first round busts like Evan Neal, Eli Apple, all these guys, right, on the New York Giants and their staff, because they did not develop these players that were clearly talented coming out of college. But, they get to the NFL, their confidence gets shaken up, and, the rest is history. Then these players are non-factors. Deilla says, I completely agree that Fields will be a contributor in one way or another. But like you said, I do expect a lot more out of my wide receiver too. Yeah, look, eventually you want your wide receiver two to be looking like what Wan'Dale did last year without Malik Neighbors. But the problem there is that Wan'Dale was operating as a wide receiver one, hundreds of targets. But from a statistical standpoint, that's what you want. You want a guy knocking on the door of 1,000 yards, 5-6 touchdowns. If Malik can go out there and put up close to double-digit touchdowns, then your wide receiver core is going to be clicking the way that most fans want it to be. No Witnesses 85 said, I'm not delusional. I just want to be relevant in November. That's not a huge ask. We've had too many seasons over the last decade where the season is basically over by Halloween. Yeah, it's been like that, right? But these things take time, man. Like Harbaugh's here in his first year. I want that just as bad as you do. But if we don't get it this year, I'm not going to be I'm not going to have a giant overreaction, right? I'm going to be like, it's Harbaugh's first year. We got a lot of work to do. We got to clean this up. And that could take a couple of years, especially Harbaugh coming from a very established, building with the Baltimore Ravens, man. Ozzie Newsome over there. The draft picks have been great outside of wide receiver. Draft picks have been really good over there. And, coming here with Joe Shane might be a different thing that might take a little bit longer. So we'll see how it goes. I see the Illa. Yeah, he defending that one. Yeah, I feel you, bro. He said, you would have been right on that, though, about Neighbors if he didn't get hurt. Yeah, but that's my point, is that you just don't know who's going to get hurt. You just don't know, man. Football is a tough sport, man. These players get hurt every year. It seems like every year, if you play fantasy football, I know Deilla does, every year somebody in the first round getting injured and out for the year, it's part of the game now. It's part of the game. Mason Betha in the building says, OBJ was killing, just didn't get the targets. Y'all sleep. OBJ needs to stay. Yeah, he was definitely open. I mean, the busted coverage where Jameis missed him, just didn't look at him. Even on the play on the interception from Brandon Allen, he's basically getting open on the outside. He's beating that man press, but the safety was over the top. The quick slants look good. The play where Brandon Allen threw the other interception, that ain't on Odell. Odell was open. I did see him look a little timid across the middle, just a little bit. But yeah, I'm not sleeping on Odell. Absolutely not. Deaton said he deserves a roster spot. Yeah, I think it's 6, man. I think the 6th spot is Odell. And then if you keep Calvin Austin or somebody like that, then that could possibly be the guy who double dips and does the special team stuff, because you really don't need a true special teams guy. You just need a punt returner. That's really all you need. Kick returner could be Deontay Banks all day long. Max says Evan Neal was a first-round pick out there playing against undrafted guys. Him not looking good would have been embarrassing. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. I am Jarrell said I picked the Neighbors first in our league. Yeah, that's a smart move, bro. Malik Neighbors, Giants, you get to root for your fantasy team. You get to root for, a player that's on your squad. It's a win-win situation, man. It's definitely a win-win situation. Let me check this here. Okay, we got that taken care of. Yeah, man, so I just wanted to come here today. We're going to beat that over-under. That's awesome. But I just wanted to come here, wrap up with you guys today, man. Catch up mainly. Try to tap in with the chat as much as we can. I see No Cap in my rack says I would have rather had Stephon Diggs than OBJ, Juju, and Barrios, all 3 of them. Yeah, I was telling people we should have signed Stephon Diggs. Giants fans didn't like that. They're like, I don't want the Cardi B sideshow. I get it. I definitely get it. But yeah, man, it's I think Odell has played well enough to at least make this roster. Diggs would have been a better option. And I am a little bit worried that Diggs is over there in Washington with Terry McLaurin on the outside. That gives them really nice weapons, especially after drafting Antonio Williams out of Clemson as well, who I think is going to be a contributor in the slot. They brought in Rashad White to kind of aid that running back room with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who I was a big fan of after the Senior Bowl, played really well. Definitely a guy that you can utilize on outside zone and stuff like that. I think the Commanders are the most puzzling team in the division this year. Like, they could literally be dead last in the division, or they could win the division as well. Like, I'm not 100% sure. I see the Illis talking about Deebo Samuel for $7 million too. That wasn't a bad deal either. I mean, Deebo was a big contributor last year when Terry McLaurin was having his injury struggles. Deebo was contributing. I like Deebo, and the reason why I like Deebo is he's the kind of guy that, like, you just got to, get him the ball, get him manufactured touches. You don't got to, get him open down the field. Debo's get the bubble screen, get 6 yards. He's one of the toughest players in the league, man. I'm a big fan. Mason says that Diggs is going to be distracted by Jaden's mom. That's crazy. That is crazy. Trisha says we should have had George Pickens. Yeah. You know what's wild about that is people were sleeping on George Pickens after he left the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was like, bro, y'all don't get it. He's over there playing with dog water quarterbacks. He put up 1,000 yards basically with Kenny Pickett. And Kenny, I can't remember the exact touchdowns, but it was something like Kenny Pickett had 10 touchdowns that year and Pickens had 6 or something. It's like, bro, George Pickens would have been amazing. But people were worried about the character. That's what they was worried about. It was definitely the character. Illa's asking about the fantasy league. I don't know, man. That was tough last year with that many teams. Still got to do the awards that we're going to give out for that as well too. We'll take care of that before the regular season starts 100%, but we'll see. If we get enough people that want to do it, we'll talk about it next stream, and if we get enough people that want to do it, we'll redo the fantasy league again. It was chaotic last year. I think it was 16 team leagues, 2 of them. It was chaotic, man. The waiver wire was absolutely wild, but we'll get there. But man, I appreciate all y'all pulling up today, rocking out with us here on the Giant Overreaction. I know there was a lot of new faces in the building today. So, if you dig into vibes, man, hit the subscribe button. If not, just keep your eyes peeled for what we do over here, and yeah, it is what it is, man. We're just trying to bring value to the community. I'm the kind of person that, right, a lot of people like to pray for, at least people that are spiritual or religious or whatever. They like to pray for, big bags of money, and they like to pray for all the personal success in the world and all that stuff. And for me, when I think about especially my career here on YouTube, I just be trying to pray for just being that person that can continue to raise the bar with the quality of the value that I bring. So if you're in the chat and you ever feel like there's something that, can aid this show or something you might want to see from this show, always feel free to express that, because our goal is to try to bring y'all the highest quality content that we can. Now, that don't mean that we're going to be out here just making content, whatever y'all say we're going to do. I know there are some content creators like that, they just going to do whatever the motherfuckers want, right? That ain't my style, right? We assess it and then we try to add it to the table. But we're always open to any new ideas. And you'll see this year that there are going to be some new ideas this year for sure. Again, this week, we're going to start the NFL Rookie Wide Receiver Watch. which is going to follow every wide receiver around the league. We're going to show all 22 footage of all of the rookie wide receivers around the league from every one of their games every week. We're going to start with preseason week 1 here. Either tomorrow I'm going to do it or the day after that. But keep your eyes peeled for that for all my like NFL ball, lovers out there that just can't get enough. That's going to be a show that's going to kind of, deal with more of the NFL community rather than the New York Giants community. But obviously we have a rookie wide receiver on our roster, and so do the Washington Commanders, and so do the Dallas Cowboys, and so do the Philadelphia Eagles. So covering, all the NFC East teams, it's going to be a really intriguing year. Don't forget, Mekhi Lemon didn't get a chance to play this past week with the Philadelphia Eagles because of a hamstring injury. You got Antonio Williams with the Washington Commanders. I forget the late round pick that the Dallas Cowboys ended up getting, and they got a UDFA over there that lit shit up this past weekend. I'm going to be talking about him as well on the show. So keep your eyes peeled for all things authentic and the beard coming up. And we're always on Twitter talking ball. It's @authentic, the way you see it spelled. So if you ever want to extend the conversation, pop over on Twitter. I thought Lord Brunson did the best job of describing what Twitter is turning into. It's ghetto as fuck, man. It's the hood over there. It's definitely the hood over there. And it's a bunch of YNs in the hood over there. It's crazy. It's wild, wild west over there, bro. But bring your thick skin if you're gonna pull up to Twitter. And I told people I'm gonna get a little bit unhinged this year on Twitter. I'm like, I told you I'm trying to get to that senior citizen shit where like I'm on my porch yelling at the kids. I'm trying to be an old angry man. And this year I think might be a little bit of a start of that. So definitely pull up, rock out with us on Twitter. And more importantly, rock out with us here on Twitter, man, or on YouTube. I'm sorry about that. But y'all know how we end every show over here on Authentic in the Beard. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams. Because a life without dreams is a life in black and white, and the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that is a wrap, man. Thank y'all for spending y'all Monday afternoon with me. For those of y'all that are new here, we do this every Monday throughout the entirety of the season. We do the Giant Overreaction typically at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes it might be a little bit later, a little bit earlier at times, depending on the schedule. But this is what we do. Biceps in the chat before we get up out of here. I see JDJ said, "Where's your outro freestyle?" Yo, the beat that I was playing on the beginning, this one right here, I just cooked. I ain't made a beat in a full fiscal year, man. And I just cooked this up. And man, this joint right here be having me like, it just got me on them angry vibes, man. I might try to send this to somebody. I think an ill lyricist need to jump on this. But man, no freestyles today. I've never freestyled on this channel. I ain't freestyled in like 10 years. I don't think the chops are quite what they used to be, man. But we'll see, man. One of these days we are going to have a hip-hop conversation. I thank y'all for continuously supporting what we do over here. And just being here, man. My dog Premium Pete, he always says, man, presence over presence. And y'all know what it is, man. Thank y'all. Biceps in the chat one more time before we get up out of here, man. It's been a vibe. I don't want it to end, but we will be here in the next couple of days. Y'all stay safe. Keep supporting these New York Giants. Keep supporting these rookies. Keep supporting these players. And yeah, hopefully we can get over the hump and possibly get to the promised land. We shall see, man. I would be nowhere else in this world but here talking New York Giants ball with y'all, man. Thank y'all again. I will catch y'all on the flip side. Y'all be easy and enjoy the rest of y'all Monday afternoon, yo.